Chapter 1166. They're cursing at the top of their lungs, but the people in Phoenix Pass seem to have turned into cowards. Not a single one dares to fight. Damn it, Situ-san sat down beside the commander's seat and gulped down the entire pot of water. Who's the commander in Phoenix Pass? Lin Muyu asked. Lin Shuang, a former commander of the Blackstone Empire. You can say that he's from the same family as you. Si Kongyao replied. Oh. Kindred, do you think I can persuade him to surrender by appealing to his emotions and reasoning? Forget it. He's He Song's cousin. His relationship with him is much stronger than yours. You should have said so earlier. Lin Muyu looked at the terrain of Phoenix Pass on the sand table and remained silent. Can we send soldiers over Phoenix Mountain and launch a surprise attack? Situ Shua asked. No. Lin Muyu shook her head. Half of the wolf soldiers are cavalry. Sending a small number of foot soldiers would be suicide. Let's think of another way. Why don't we try attacking tomorrow? Wei Chou asked. Yes, let's try. The next day, the Longdan army camp quickly attacked Phoenix Pass. However, they retreated in just 2 hours. Wei Chou hugged his helmet and walked into the commander's tent with a gloomy face. No, we can't break in. The magic crystal cannons have already turned the walls into pockmarks, but they still can't collapse. If only Qianfeng's giant flying snakes were here. If a few of them were to attack, I'm afraid Phoenix Pass would be razed to the ground in the blink of an eye. How many people did we lose? 700. 700 people in just a short while? Lin Muyu frowned. We can't continue fighting like this. The morale of the army will be in chaos before we even reach Red Rock City. That's right, Lin Muyu pondered for a moment before raising her head and asking, what is He Song doing in Red Rock City? As for He Song, he is the valley master of the Wolf Valley. He has always been content with his own territory. Now that he has obtained the strong city of Red Rock City, he spends every day seeking pleasure. He also sends people to search for strong men to sacrifice in order to obtain more wolf soldiers. These wolf soldiers have astonishing battle strength and are born with divine strength. They are also quite bloodthirsty. Once they enter the battlefield, they become like wild beasts. How do they compare to the elites of the Longdan army camp? In terms of individual combat ability, he is superior. Wei Chou said, fortunately, not all the 200,000 wolf soldiers under He Song are real wolf soldiers. Only about half of them have obtained the secret sacrificial technique of the Wolf Valley and are real wolf soldiers. How many true wolf soldiers does Lin Shuang have in Phoenix Pass? About 20,000. This will be troublesome, Wei Chou said. My lord, forgive me for speaking bluntly. If it is a frontal battle, our army's battle strength is not inferior to the wolf soldiers. But when it comes to defending the city, the wolf soldiers have astonishing arm strength and excellent archery skills. Of the 700 Longdan army camp soldiers that died in battle, most of them were killed by sharp arrows. In a siege battle, we are definitely not a match for the wolf soldiers. Si Kongyao blinked her eyes and said, I am afraid that the news of our arrival at Phoenix Pass will quickly spread to Red Rock City. At that time, if He Song reinforcements his troops, our chances of victory will be even lower. That's right. Lin Muyu said in a low voice, we must end this battle quickly and take down Phoenix Pass. How? Situ-san asked. In the afternoon, you will lead 5,000 men and continue to attack the city. Do not attack by force, feign an attack and try to reduce the losses. Is it because I spoke too much? That's right. Wei Chou smiled. My lord, do you have an idea? No idea, but if we continue to attack for a long time without success, Lin Shuang's troops will become arrogant. They will think that our army is tired and lacking in battle strength. This way, perhaps they will be able to take advantage of this. We will attack for 2 days and on the 3rd day, we will break camp and retreat 10 li before setting up camp. Wei Chou's eyes lit up. Huh. My lord, are you planning to use arrogant tactics? That's right, we can only lure Lin Shuang's troops out and exterminate them. Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes, but the key is whether or not Lin Shuang is a smart person. If he is, then it will be difficult. Milord, don't worry. Wei Chou said, I have already asked around. Lin Shuang is greedy and ruthless. In the 6 months he has been guarding the Red Cliff province, he has killed soldiers and raped women. Moreover, he has a violent temper. Other than listening to Hisong, he has no other good points, but Hisong seems to have given him an order, to defend the city and not leave. Then let's wait and see. Loyalty to Hisong and achievement in killing the enemy. Which of these two choices will he choose? This subordinate understands. 2 days later, the Longdan army camp and Baizé mercenaries retreated 10 li and set up camp again. They had already shown signs of retreat. In the middle of the night, light snow fell from the sky. It came just in time. The curtain of snow seemed to boost the enemy's courage. There were dense forests on both sides of the official road. Lin Muyu personally led 100,000 elites to lie in ambush on both sides of the road, while Wei Chou led 100,000 people to guard the camp. The world quickly turned pale white, everything seemed so quiet. If Lin Shuang came, then it would be a great merit. If not, then the 100,000 troops would freeze in the snow for a night. Lin Muyu's move could be said to be a huge gamble. Time passed bit by bit, and in the blink of an eye, it was already late at night. Everyone seemed a little anxious. Will they really not come? Lu Bai frowned. Don't talk nonsense, they will definitely come. Si Kongyao glared at him. Lin Muyu squatted in the grass on the snowy ground, looking into the distance. She held the Xianyuan sword in her hand and said, if they don't come, then I can only forfeit my salary for half a year to comfort the soldiers. Si Kongyao smiled sweetly. What if they come? It's best if they come. We have to make sure that Lin Shuang doesn't return alive. After wiping them out, we will immediately attack Phoenix Pass and use the Dragon Riders and Xingtian army's advantage to break through the city. They waited until the sky was already beginning to brighten, and the snow had already covered their boots, but Lin Shuang still hadn't come. Situ Sen's hand that was holding the sword was already numb from the cold. That brat Lin Shuang can't be that cowardly, right? If he doesn't even dare to come, then what kind of battle is he going to fight if he's so cowardly? Don't worry, we're almost there. Lin Muyu suddenly smiled. Big Bro sensed it. 5 li out. Situ Sen was overjoyed. All troops, be on guard. Don't take action yet. Wait until the cannons sound from the camp, and then we'll slaughter our way out. No one is allowed to make the first move. Everyone said in a low voice, yes. Sure enough, not long after, the sound of hooves could be heard. On the official road in the distance, densely packed cavalry galloped over. There seemed to be about 20,000 cavalrymen, and the rest were infantry. They were marching at an extremely fast speed, majestically. It seemed like Lin Shuang had really gone all out, preparing to deal a fatal blow to the Longdan army camp. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel elated. She laughed in a low voice and said, we didn't wait for nothing this night. We actually caught such a big fish. This is great. The faces of the generals were also filled with joy. The enemy's front quickly passed through, heading straight for the main camp. Not long after, the sound of cannons could be heard from the main camp, and then the sound of killing rose into the sky. They're moving out. Lin Muyu turned around and mounted her horse. In a low voice, she shouted, Si Kongyao will lead the troops to cover the rear. Situ Sen and Situ Shui will attack from the left and right. Completely surround them for me. Don't let a single one escape. 200,000 soldiers were more than enough to surround 70 to 80,000 soldiers. Lin Muyu personally led the cavalry of the Longdan army camp to attack. Their target was the infantry of the enemy. Instantly, they were like a tiger that had entered a flock of sheep. They slaughtered their way through as if there was no one there. However, the moment the ambush started, the morale of Lin Shuang's troops had already collapsed. They had no intention to fight at all and fled in all directions. Only the 20,000 wolf soldiers personally led by Lin Shuang were the real elites. They took out their arrows, aimed, and killed hundreds of Wei Chou's cavalry in the blink of an eye. However, Wei Chou was too fast, and they were about to engage in a close combat. In the crowd, Lin Shuang was wearing a dark red armor. The sword in his hand was gleaming coldly, and his body was surrounded by the sacred energy. He roared, "Fight! The wolf soldiers will never surrender." A group of cavalrymen roared in unison. Their faces became very ferocious. Green veins popped up on their faces, and dense hair grew on their skin. Fangs even protruded from their mouths. It was as if they had turned into wild beasts. Indeed, they were like a pack of wolves. So this is the power of sacrifice? Wei Chou raised his hand and shot an arrow, directly piercing the throats of 3 wolf soldiers. He sneered and said, "That's all? Kill them all, don't leave a single one alive." The cavalry of the Longdan army camp charged forward at high speed, and the sound of killing shook the heavens. Although the wolf soldiers were strong, compared to the troops of the Longdan army camp, their well-trained tactics were too messy, and they could not unleash their full power. Their sharp claws could only leave marks on the armor of the soldiers of the Longdan army camp, but they could not pierce through their bodies. On the contrary, their bodies were quickly cut into pieces by the cavalry. Blood quickly spread, and the messy snow was dyed red. After a bloody battle, the 20,000 wolf soldiers refused to retreat and were finally killed. However, most of the infantry were defeated and begged for mercy, becoming prisoners of the Longdan army camp. After daybreak, Wei Chou led a group of cavalry to attack Fenghuang Pass. Xing Tian's army descended from the sky and threw Lin Shuang's head off the city wall. Immediately, the morale of the soldiers in the city was thrown into chaos, and almost without bloodshed, Fenghuang Pass was captured. By noon, the flag of the Kingdom of Shang had been replaced by the royal flag of the purple Yinghua flower. However, in the afternoon, the eastern side of Fenghuang Pass had been sealed off. When Yisong received the news, he led 150,000 soldiers over. In addition, there were also 100,000 soldiers from the Prairie Blazing province, making a total of 250,000. An hour later, the wolf soldiers shot the letter of challenge into the city, and it quickly reached Lin Muyu's hands. She opened the letter of challenge, and the handwriting on it was vigorous and forceful. It seemed to be a letter written by Yisong himself. "Yuqin traitors have invaded, and the heavens are angry and the people are resentful. I heard that the mighty person under me is willing to hunt with me in the Milan forest, and I hope that you will wash your neck clean before beheading me." Si Kongyao looked at the letter of challenge, and her face flushed red. She stomped her feet in anger. "How dare you?" Lin Muyu glanced at her. "Why are you so angry?" Chapter 1167. Yisong's army of 250,000 men attacked Fenghuang Pass, but Fenghuang Pass was a strong city and Lin Muyu took it down without shedding a single drop of blood. The fortress was very intact and there was no problem in defending it. Moreover, from the first day, Lin Muyu had already made preparations to defend it. The rations in Fenghuang Pass were enough for 200,000 men to use for 5 days. It was not too late to immediately send a letter to Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi to prepare rations from Qianshan City. At dusk, the battle ended and the attacking army gradually dispersed, leaving only the devastated city walls and densely packed corpses. A general success was built on 10,000 bones. In this battle, Yisong had left at least 10,000 corpses, but it did not shake Phoenix Pass in the slightest. The cold wind blew. Lin Muyu held on to the cold battlements as she looked at the enemy camp in the distance outside the city and said, "It is not a long-term plan to go on like this. Calculating the arrows used today, there should be at least 200,000 to 300,000, right?" At the side, Si Kongyao nodded her head and said, "Only more and no less." "How many arrows do we have left?" "There are still around 500,000 left. In one day, we have used almost half." Wei Chou said worriedly, "Tonight, we must go out of the city to clean up the battlefield. At the very least, we must pull back the arrows that were shot. Not only that. Lin Muyu sighed. I saw that many arrows were broken after they were shot out. We still need to make new arrows. How many people in the army know how to make arrows? Most of them only have a rough understanding, but there are not many who can make fine arrows. Most of the arrows that we brought were made by the archery masters of the Ministry of War. Wei Chou smiled. Forgive me for speaking bluntly, but if the soldiers were to make arrows, the lethality would at least be reduced by half or perhaps even more. Lin Muyu frowned. Yao, are there any local archery masters? Yes. Si Kong Yao gave a definite answer, saying, the Blackstone Empire has always been militaristic, and many of the people in the prefectural cities rely on the military to make a living. Every prefectural city has at least 100 arrow craftsmen, swordsmiths, and the like. If brother needs them, I will immediately send people to invite these arrow craftsmen over, but the remuneration cannot be low. They are a group of people who make a living by making arrows. No problem. Lin Muyu turned around and said, when I came here, I saw a large bamboo forest on the hillside behind us. This bamboo forest can be cut down and used as tree trunks for arrows. Go and do it, the more the better, the faster the better. Don't worry. Si Kong Yao blinked her eyes and said with a smile, an archery master and 2 apprentices can make at least 100 arrows a day. I will invite all the archery masters in the nearby prefectural cities, and they can make at least 200,000 arrows a day for us. Let's give them the payment from Thousand Mountain City's treasury. All right. Si Kong Yao turned around and left, while Lin Muyu once again looked into the distance. My lord, are you planning to wear down the morale of Hisong's wolf soldiers? Otherwise, with your personality, you would never adopt a defensive strategy. Wei Chou asked with a burning gaze. Lin Muyu laughed bitterly. That's right, you saw through me. You've seen it too, Wei Chou. The individual strength of the wolf soldiers is just too strong. Previously, Lin Shuang only had 20,000 wolf soldiers, but he was able to wipe out 10,000 of our elites. If Hisong's 80,000 wolf soldiers were to swarm us, I suspect that even if the tens of thousands of cavalry in the Longdan army camp were to win, there wouldn't be many left. Wei Chou said with a faint smile, my lord, you've thought it through. I also think so. It's really unwise to fight against the wolf soldiers. These wolf soldiers are greedy and belligerent. Their strength and speed are far better than ordinary people. Their only shortcoming is their intelligence. If we can keep them busy for a long time and wear out their patience, I'm afraid that these wolf soldiers will collapse on their own. Not only the wolf soldiers, but also Hisong will lose his patience. When Hisong gives the order to retreat, it's time for us to go out of the city to chase after them. That's right. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, now I'm looking forward to the arrival of the Second Corps of Lingdong Province as soon as possible. If the 90,000 armored demons of the demon tribe are here, why should I be afraid of these 80,000 wolf soldiers? Even if the army of armored demons arrives, the first reinforcement will be from Xishan Province, which is relatively close. We still have to rely on ourselves. Wei Chou broke Lin Muyu's fantasy. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. I'm just thinking about it. I don't have a real plan. My lord. Wei Chou suddenly wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. Lin Muyu looked at him and asked, what's the matter? I want to ask you a question. Say it, what do you want to ask? Wei Chou took a step back and respectfully cupped his hands, saying, my lord, we have now conquered Xishan Province and Liaishan Province. Soon, we will naturally be able to conquer Hongyan Province and Liaoyuan Province. By then, half of the celestial pole continent will be in our hands. My lord, you have made outstanding contributions and your words in the army carry enormous weight. It can be said that you have the power to overturn the world. My lord, aren't you afraid of being criticized by the old officials in the imperial court? I know the relationship between my lord and Her Highness the Empress, but I still have to warn my lord that you must guard against the heart of a villain. The more power you have, the more angry and intolerable those who want you to step down from the altar will be. Lin Muyu was startled and said, Wei Chou, you mean, those old officials in Lanyan City? Yes. I'm not worried about this. Divine Marquis Ng Yifan is now loyal to Xiao Yin, so he shouldn't set me up. But there are others. Among the 12 assistant ministers of the 6 departments, how many of them are really on your side? Although my lord has a godlike status and reputation in the army, in the eyes of those scheming people, you are just a boorish man who is good at fighting. After all, my lord is now a mortal and no longer a god. You need to consider the aftermath of all this. A lot of snow had fallen on Wei Chao's shoulders, and he stood majestically in the snow like a statue. He looked at Lin Muyu with clear eyes and said, "Recently, the informants I have arranged in Lanyan City have been sending back news. There is negative news about my lord and General Feng in Lanyan City, such as massacring the civilians of the celestial pole continent, privately hoarding mansions, cultivating their own forces in the army, and so on. We must guard against these people. If we seize the whole world, I also don't want it to fall into the hands of those despicable and shameless people. I also don't want a famous general like my lord to suffer injustice. That won't happen." Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and said, "Good brother, don't think so much. Think about it, Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi are both my wives, Su Yu is Xiao Yin's little aunt, and Qin Lian is Yan's father. Almost all of Lanyan City belongs to us. No matter how those despicable people overturn the rivers and seas, they will never overturn the truth." "Yes." Wei Chou nodded heavily and said, "I am the commander of the Longdan army camp, and the 20 generals who are in charge of tens of thousands of soldiers are all old generals who have followed my lord for many years. This time, I will never give up my military power. If anyone wants to hurt my lord, I will use the strongest army in the world to exterminate their whole family." Lin Muyu's eyes couldn't help but warm up. She turned around and sat on the cold battlement, holding her head. She felt so uncomfortable that tears almost fell down. "Your Excellency, what's wrong with you?" Wei Chou was stunned. Lin Muyu looked up at the flying snow in the sky and said, "Wei Chou, I hope the way of heaven still exists. Otherwise, if you and I are both mortals for the rest of our lives, I will order you to be killed when we return to Lanyan City." Wei Chou was silent, but he seemed to have guessed that Lin Muyu would say such a thing. He said softly, "Your Excellency, are you worried that I will eventually lead to a disaster because of my military power?" "Yes." Lin Muyu looked at him indifferently and said, "In the future, it will be the Congress that will be in charge of the world in Lanyan City. The Congress will never tolerate people like you. In order to avoid disaster, I can only kill you. So don't force me, Wei Chou. When that day comes, let go of your military power, let go of everything. You and I, as brothers, will leave this trouble." Wei Chou knelt on the ground with one knee firmly, tears welling up in his eyes. "I just don't want to see a famous general like you suffer injustice. I am just a pawn on your chessboard. I never thought that your Excellency would treat me as a brother. No, you have always been. You have been since we were in the Eagle's Nest camp. You are the most trustworthy brother." Lin Muyu helped him up and said, "Remember, don't be obsessed with power and wealth. They will devour you like a whirlpool. In the future, when we succeed, you and I, plus Feng Jixing and Situ Sen, will take our families and leave this whirlpool of power. There are many places in the world where we, Xiaoyao, can live freely." "Yes, thank you, Your Excellency." Wei Chou gritted his teeth and said, "I, Wei Chou, will never hold a military power for myself. I will be loyal to the Empire and to our friendship for the rest of my life." "Don't say so much. Situ Sen has just ordered the dead horses to be roasted. Come in and drink with me to warm up. It's spring, but it's still so cold." "Yes, it's really cold." On the 18th of January, a row of light cavalry appeared in the snow, holding the purple Yinghua imperial flag. Amidst the wind, a winged person fluttered down and chattered something. The leader of the cavalry did not say much. He took out a letter from his bosom and said, "Please deliver this to Commander Feng Jixing. The army will arrive after nightfall." The winged person hid the letter and flew away. In Shiping Prefecture, Feng Jixing, who had received the letter, could not help but laugh happily. Has Qianfeng arrived? Xiangyu asked. Yes. Feng Jixing handed the letter to Xiangyu. Xiangyu glanced at it and said, "It is indeed Qianfeng's handwriting, but... Commander, are you sure it is not forged? It must be Qianfeng's handwriting. Look at how he addressed Yangshang. 4 words, lightning-throwing Tower Mao, are enough to prove everything." Why? Because you once scolded Qianfeng like this, and Qianfeng, that dumb roe deer, only knew what it meant 8 years later when he submitted to the empire. At that time, he still thought that you was praising him for his military strategy. Send the 3 armies and have a good rest. Prepare for the decisive battle with Yangshang tomorrow morning. Yes, Your Excellency. Chapter 1168. On the 19th of January, the intermittent snowfall stopped once again, and the warm sun shone on the land. The sound of war drums reverberated across Jianlongjuan. This fertile land had become the best battlefield. The Yangshang army had always been known for its cavalry's prowess, and Qianfeng was also very confident in the Qin army's positional warfare. They had already set up their formation before dawn. Looking from Shiping City, the fertile land to the east was densely packed with people. The violet flower imperial flag and the dark blue uniforms of the empire's soldiers formed a sea of blue. In the distance, the red uniforms of the Yangshang army looked like they were dyed with blood. In terms of numbers, the Shang army still had the absolute advantage. More than 400,000 people against Qianfeng's 200,000 people naturally had the upper hand. However, there were still more than 100,000 people under Feng Jixing in the city. Once they left the city, the outcome would be hard to predict. Who's Qianfeng's vanguard? They've already set up their formation. Xiangyu frowned. It's Qin Xiaoli, the commander of Qihai City's garrison. Feng Jixing raised his eyebrows and smiled. Qin Xiaoli was originally a general of the Tang family. She's like a snow wolf in the north, good at seizing opportunities and tearing open the enemy's flaws with fierce attacks. Just wait and see. The vanguard of the Yangshang army is Han Yuan's East Com army. They're definitely not Qin Xiaoli's match. Is that so? Xiangyu declined to comment. When do we attack? Don't be anxious. Let's first grind down the morale of the Shang army and let everyone have a good rest. We'll talk in the afternoon. This battle won't end in a day or 2. All right. 5 minutes later, the war drums boomed. The vanguard of both sides began to charge at each other. Qin Xiaoli didn't personally lead the charge. Instead, she raised her sword, and the Kiliarchs behind her led the charge. The infantry and cavalry slowly advanced in a phalanx formation. Upon closer inspection, one could see that the infantry was mostly made up of heavy shields, spears, and bows. There were about 20,000 of them in the center, while the cavalry was divided into 2 groups, waiting to move out. On the other hand, Han Yuan's battle strategy was much simpler. The cavalry charged brainlessly. One lost. Feng Jixing laughed. Guan Xing and Lin Sun laughed as well. Most of the commanders in the Shang army were people with high cultivation and reputation, and not those who truly knew how to use troops. This was the fatal flaw of the Shang army. Just as expected, when the 50,000 cavalrymen of the Shang army charged into the shield formation and crashed into each other, wantonly slaughtering Qin Xiaoli's infantry, the cavalrymen that Qin Xiaoli had stationed on the flanks began to pick up speed. Like a gale sweeping away leaves, they swept through the chaotic enemy cavalry formation, and for a moment, the sounds of slaughter rose to the heavens. On one side, there was chaos, and there was no direction, while on the other side, there was order and formation. Even if there was a great disparity in the strength of both sides, the result was still determined. Tactics were always the most important part of a war. Qin Xiaoli doesn't seem to have the desire to initiate a battle. Lin Sun said, his square formation hasn't moved too much forward. Instead, the infantry of the Shang army has unknowingly moved 3 li forward. This is the brilliance of Qin Xiaoli and Qianfeng. Feng Jixing laughed. The heavy infantry of the Shang army are just ordinary people, but their shields, armors, and weapons add up to 100 jin. If an ordinary person carries 100 jin of equipment and moves 3 li, their stamina will be more or less exhausted. But the cavalrymen are different. Look at the southeast corner. Qianfeng's 10,000 elite demon cavalrymen are ready to attack. Lin Sun took a closer look and immediately understood. Which one of the commanders on the battlefield wasn't a famous general? Not long after, the 80,000 heavy infantry of the Shang army arrived at the battlefield, but before they could complete their formation, the sounds of killing could be heard from afar. Qianfeng had already ordered the 10,000 elite demon cavalrymen and 5,000 armor demons to charge. Speed against slowness. In an instant, the 80,000 heavy infantry were smashed into pieces by the demon phalanx, which was far fewer in number than them. How could there be any defensive formation? They were completely reduced to being slaughtered. Commander Han Yuan, how do you use your troops? On the viewing platform of the kingdom of Shang, Yang Shang asked indifferently. Han Yuan's face was ashen. Your Majesty, at the side, Sun Shi said, Your Majesty, the East Com army will definitely be defeated in less than 2 hours. What should we do now? Yang Shang was somewhat anxious. Sun Shi smiled faintly. Those so-called gods were originally the elites under Qianfeng. To defeat them, we can only rely on Your Majesty's most elite army. You mean, the Divine Feather Battalion? Yes, Your Majesty, please send out the Divine Feather Battalion. Only the Divine Feather Battalion can turn the situation around. All right. Yang Shang took a deep breath. Duola, go. Don't disappoint me. Yes. Duola mounted his horse, and after giving the order, the 40,000 Divine Feather Battalion cavalry charged out like a whirlwind. As for the Qin army, Qin Yan led the national army in a charge to protect the demon army from being destroyed by the Divine Feather Battalion. Time trickled by, and soon it was close to noon. The sounds of killing could be heard on Longyuan, and everyone could even faintly smell the stench of blood coming from the battlefield. On the city wall, the generals looked at the battle situation in the distance. Xiangyu frowned and said, The Divine Feather Battalion has already attacked. If we continue to wait, Qin Yan's national army will be completely annihilated. Feng Jixing nodded. Tang Zhen has also launched an attack, and the Divine Feather Battalion is being held back. Pass down the order, leave 5,000 men to defend the city, and the rest will follow me to charge at the Shang army center. Yes. Not long after, the majestic Imperial Army cavalry charged out of the city, and went straight for the shaken Shang army. Furthermore, the Imperial Army was waiting for the exhausted, so one could imagine how elite they were. For a moment, the battlefield was in a stalemate, but the addition of Feng Jixing's troops caused a ripple, and the sounds of killing became even more intense. Du Guxian's 150,000 Thunder Spirit army faced Feng Jixing. Longyuan was in a complete mess, and hundreds of thousands of soldiers were engaged in a fierce battle. Corpses were everywhere, and blood flowed like a river. The snow and grass were covered with blood, and broken weapons and ownerless warhorses were everywhere. The artillery of both sides had been exhausted, and now they could only fight with their flesh and blood. Even the famous generals of the Qin Empire gradually lost control of their formation, and the battle turned from a positional battle into a chaotic battle. What was left was the judgment of fate, and no one knew who was the real winner. The fierce battle continued, and the people on the battlefield rushed back and forth. After a whole night, the fighting still didn't stop. Feng Jixing even passed down the order for the 3 armies to take turns to rest and fight in a chaotic battle. Many soldiers retreated 3 miles back and slept for 2 hours. After eating food and drinking water, they immediately grabbed their bloody weapons and rushed to the battlefield. Neither side was willing to retreat even half a step. Seeing the corpses everywhere on Longyuan, the formation of the armies became chaotic, and the 2 armies were fighting each other everywhere. In the blink of an eye, it was night again, and it was already the second day of the fierce battle. The 2 sides stopped fighting for 6 hours. Before the sun rose, they started fighting again. Feng Jixing's battle robe was already dyed red with blood. He didn't know how many times he had escaped the pursuit of the 2 devil gods, Longxi and Filei, through the cover of the tomes of arcane. The Imperial Guards suffered heavy casualties, and there were at least thousands of soldiers who died under the hands of the two devil gods. But this was war, and whoever lost first would lose the control of Xishan province. In the dark night, the torches were almost all extinguished. Feng Jixing's face was covered with blood. He slowly pulled out the red phoenix saber, and the saber light illuminated the people nearby. He saw that Qianfeng, Qin Yan, Tang Zhen, and the others were also in a difficult situation. Their armors were broken, and they were covered with blood. Moreover, each of them had suffered injuries of different degrees. In such a fierce battle, no one could be uninjured. "How many people do we have left?" Feng Jixing asked. "Less than half," Qianfeng said. "It doesn't matter, the Shang army's losses are even greater." Feng Jixing's eyes were filled with boundless killing intent. He raised his saber and shouted, "The enemy is 2 miles away, kill them, fight to the end." Everyone raised their weapons and shouted, "Fight to the end." If the Grim Reaper saw this scene, he would definitely be very happy, because the ground was filled with souls and dead people. Seeing that Longyuan had become purgatory on earth, a battlefield of slaughter. On the second night of the fierce battle, the Shang army's strength was instantly reduced by more than half. On the third day, the Shang army began to collapse. Facing the iron-blooded army commanded by Feng Jixing and Qianfeng, the Tianzhu Corps fled, and more than 100,000 soldiers became deserters. How could the remaining nearly 100,000 soldiers be a match for the Qin army? At noon, Yangshang ordered a retreat, and they retreated to Tianji city. After fighting for 3 days, they finally won. The Qin army rested where they were, and almost everyone had a feeling as if they had escaped from purgatory. Those who were able to survive this battle were all very lucky. On the first day of the defeat, Yangshang killed 27 senior generals while retreating. On the second day, Yangshang ordered 54 civil officials to be killed. On the third day, Yangshang arrived at Tianji city and killed 288 civil and military officials. The news of the defeat had spread in Tianji province, and also in the capital of the Kingdom of Shang. Almost everyone knew that the Emperor Shang's army had suffered a crushing defeat. Although the government posted an announcement saying that the opponents had been severely injured, everyone knew that Feng Jixing and Qianfeng of the Qin Empire were in Shiping Prefecture, and they were only slightly injured. On the contrary, the Shang army lost 3 commanders, 37 captaincy, and almost all the senior generals were killed in the battle. The rest were killed by Yangshang, who was furious, for the crime of incompetence. The worst rumor was that the kingdom of Shang was completely divided. From the east came the news that Xinyu had reascended to the throne in Laohan city. The whole Celestial Empire had broken away from the control of the kingdom of Shang and established a new country. The world was completely divided into 3 parts. Among them, the kingdom of Shang was in decline, and the Qin state was the strongest. The Battle of Longyuan was the most tragic battle of the Qin Empire. Qianfeng and Feng Jixing had a total of 350,000 troops. After the Battle of Longyuan, there were less than 160,000 left. While the Shang army was heavily injured, they were also heavily injured. After all, most of the soldiers of the kingdom of Shang were new recruits, and so were the troops of Shiping Prefecture. They were poorly trained. If it weren't for the lack of training of the opponents, perhaps Feng Jixing and Qianfeng would have been annihilated. Chapter 1169. After 2 whole days, the corpse collection team still hadn't completed their task of cleaning up the battlefield. However, most of the weapons and armors had been transported into the city. After all, the Shang army was only defeated, but not dead. Shiping Prefecture, Feng Jixing was overseeing things. His right arm was wrapped in gauze, and his face was a little pale. Probably because he had lost too much blood, even the pen he was holding was trembling. He signed the words, Feng Jixing, on the document from the Military Supply Department. "Deputy Commander, you should rest more," Tang Zhen said in a low voice. "How can I be in the mood to rest?" Feng Jixing laughed bitterly and said, "There are still hundreds of thousands of corpses outside the city that haven't been buried. Although loyal bones are buried everywhere, we should at least collect the corpses of the fallen warriors with dignity, right? Have the scouts returned? Has the Shang army made a move? Also, has there been any movement from Qin Yu's troops? Qin Yan cupped his fists and said, reporting to Deputy Commander, after this battle, less than half of Yangshang's 550,000 troops remain. Qin Yu has already fled to Scorching Han City with more than 100,000 troops from the Heaven's End Corps. Yangshang only has 100,000 troops from the Divine Feather Battalion, East Com Corps, and Thunder Soul Corps. According to the scouts' report, these troops have already left Xishan Province and are stationed at the border of Tianji Province. For the time being, Yangshang will not be able to fight again. Instead, we need to be wary of Qin Yu. Oh. Qin Yu has made a move. Not for the time being. However, it is said that a day ago, Qin Yu announced the restoration of the Celestial Empire in Scorching Han City. Qin Yu proclaimed himself as the emperor and appointed Wei Qiang as the marshal, Zhou Binlong and Huang Wanxin as the vice-marshals. He has also reorganized the major corps. Today, the Celestial Empire has at least 800,000 troops. Compared to Yangshang, the Celestial Empire is our biggest enemy. Feng Jixing nodded and sighed. In a short time, Qin Yu will certainly not declare war on us. He knows better than anyone how elite the Qin Empire's army is. Don't worry. Yes. Beside him, Zhang Wei said, Commander, we have mobilized all the tailors in Shiping City and the nearby commoners to sew the royal flags for the fallen soldiers. However, there are only 70,000 of them. The cloth and paint are too scarce. Use the supplies from the military supply department. Prepare them for me. Feng Jixing's gaze turned cold. They were originally young farmers, hunters, and craftsmen who joined the army to serve the nation under the Empress's edict. Now that they have died in battle in a foreign land, if we, who are still alive, don't have a royal flag to bury their bodies with, how can we, who are still alive, face them after we die? Is it just because I'm the deputy commander and you're the deputy commander? Zhang Wei cupped his fists and said, yes, I will do my best to supervise. Feng Jixing looked at Qin Xiaoli again and said, General Qin, you must complete the collection of the corpses as soon as possible. Fortunately, the weather is cold and the corpses won't rot. However, it's hard to guarantee that the wolves in the mountains won't come out to hunt during winter. I don't want the corpses of any of the Empire's martyrs to become food for hungry wolves. Yes. Qin Xiaoli bowed and said, I have already sent people to guard the corpses day and night and drive away the wild beasts. Deputy Commander, please don't worry. However, Deputy Commander, a total of 200,000 soldiers have died in this battle. Where do you plan to bury them? Bury them under the Green Mountains at the edge of Jianlong Plain. Bury their corpses together according to the state funeral etiquette. Yes, Marshal, please give me another 10,000 men and horses to speed up the construction of the tombs. Okay. Feng Jixing looked at the generals and said, why isn't everyone saying anything? Qin Yong and Qian Feng were silent. After a while, Qian Feng said, this is the most tragic battle I've ever experienced in my life. Even now, my stomach is still twitching. When I close my eyes, it's as if I can see the desperate scene of the soldiers. Lin Sun sat there blankly with a blank gaze. He said, this battle has really scared me. I'm even tired of fighting. Heh. Deputy Commander, you won't look down on me, right? Why would I? Feng Jixing relaxed his brows and said, it's not only you guys. I'm the same. I'm also human. So many people died in battle. The people beside me fell one by one and were badly mutilated. Last night, I also rested for a while and kept having the same nightmare. They were all the wronged souls of those who died in battle, so I was so scared that I didn't dare to sleep anymore. Looking at the dispirited looks of the generals, Feng Jixing smiled and said, cheer up. In this battle, the souls of 200,000 brave warriors established the supreme power of the Qin Empire in the Celestial Pole. They didn't die in vain. Her Highness Yin will also confer them the title of martyrs. Their names will all be engraved on the nation-guarding monument. Everyone nodded their heads in delight. Qin Yen said, "I've just received Yu's letter." After Her Highness Yin and Princess Shi learned of the bloody battle in Jianlong Plain, they rushed overnight. They will probably arrive in a day. Her Highness the Empress wants to personally hold a funeral for the soldiers who died in battle. Feng Jixing smiled slightly. Send Yu's letter to Lin General and tell him that the West Mountain province has been defended. Let him concentrate on cleaning up the remnant enemies in the southeast. Yes. Qin Yen cupped his fists and then said, "But Deputy Commander, Big Brother's side isn't some crippled enemy. That's the 300,000 elites He Song commands. Big Brother's days are definitely not going to be too easy. Don't worry. You will win. He is more powerful than any of us." Feng Jixing smiled playfully, "Much more powerful." Fenghuang Pass. Lin Muyu had led the Longdan army camp to guard this place for close to 7 days. He Song's wolf soldiers had attacked almost every day but were still unable to achieve any success. Below Fenghuang Pass, corpses were piled up. He Song almost threw down thousands of corpses every day. Today, they only lost 3,000 people in battle before retreating. In the meeting hall, Wei Chou sat down and said, "It seems that He Song has lost his patience. How many wolf soldiers have been lost? Have they been calculated?" Lin Muyu asked. "Approximately 10,000. In that case, He Song still has 70,000 wolf soldiers left." Lin Muyu muttered to herself before saying, "In these 1 or 2 days, He Song will definitely give the order to retreat. Pass down the order to let everyone have a good rest. Every meal is to be full and be prepared to attack at any time." "Yes." Situ Sun narrowed his eyes and smiled. "How does Lin General intend to fight this battle?" Currently, He Song still has close to 200,000 elite soldiers in his hands. They are exhausted and their morale is declining. They can no longer be considered elite. Lin Muyu looked at the sand table and said, "Both the inside and outside of Milin are plains. The trees in Milin are also very sparse. It is very suitable for field operations. Our Longdan army camp and Baizé mercenaries have a total of nearly 100,000 elite cavalry. This time, it is up to these cavalry to render meritorious service." Si Kongyao was startled. "How does brother plan to fight?" "As long as He Song retreats, immediately send out cavalry to chase after him. Wave the flag and shout that the wolf soldiers have been defeated, disrupting their morale. All 100,000 cavalry will go out of the city and chase after them. Bring along magic crystal crossbows. Wherever He Song's wolf soldiers escape to, we will chase after them until they are completely annihilated." Lin Muyu's eyes were cold. "If we don't destroy He Song's wolf soldiers, they will become a big problem for us sooner or later." Brother is right. The wolf soldiers are cruel and have the possibility of ascending to the demon god. So, it is best to annihilate them as soon as possible. However, if it is just cavalry, I am afraid that we cannot destroy all of He Song's troops. So, Yao, you and I, together with the 2 generals, Wei Chou and Sun Shui, will lead the cavalry to pursue and kill them. As for Lu Bai, you will lead the remaining 200,000 infantry soldiers to attack and kill He Song's remaining troops as quickly as possible. Kill them or capture them. After you have achieved meritorious service, I will ask Xiao Yin for your contribution and give you a 2nd-rank military rank." Lu Bai immediately knelt down. "Thank you, sir. I will not let you down. Go and make the arrangements." "Yes." Late at night, the cold wind was blowing, but the camp of He Song's wolf soldiers was noisy. The transportation of supplies and the neighing of war horses mixed together. They had finally decided to retreat. The rations they had brought from Red Rock City were almost exhausted. If they did not retreat now, the wolf soldiers would eat them alive. More importantly, the wolf soldiers' patience had run out. Phoenix Pass had been attacked for a long time, and the wolf soldiers had no other choice but to retreat. The cold wind carried snowflakes on his armor. He Song was dressed in a red battle robe and riding a fine horse. His eyes were cold as he walked in the middle of the army. He frowned and said in a low voice, "Lower your voice, don't alarm the enemy in Phoenix Pass. If you attract Lin Muyu's attention, no one will have a good ending." "Yes, Commander." A group of guard camp soldiers followed closely behind. A black-cloaked strategist rode over and said in a low voice, "Commander, we still need to be careful. The army's retreat has caused quite a commotion, and Lin Muyu has dragon riders under him. The moment they discover us, they will definitely ambush us. We need to leave a battalion to cover the rear." "I know, I have already left 20,000 infantry of the 2nd Battalion to cover the rear of the camp." 20,000 infantry? The strategist was taken aback. Lin Muyu's armored cavalry is an elite force. Can 20,000 infantry really hold them off? Then what else do you want? Have my 70,000 wolf soldiers stay behind to cover the rear? No, that's not what I mean. It's just that. Commander, please leave 20,000 infantry of the 3rd Battalion to cover the rear. Otherwise, they will not be able to hold Lin Muyu back. If he sees through our retreat, I'm afraid his pursuers will be here in the blink of an eye." "Humph, we'll do as you say." "Thank you, Commander." Above the forest, 2 huge figures flew past. It was the dragon riders under the command of the Longdan army camp. Those bastards have finally retreated. Lin Muyu was a little agitated. He quickly slapped the table and said, "Attack immediately." "Yes." Si Kongyao, Situ Sen, Wei Chou, Fengshi and the others all cupped their fists, then grabbed their weapons and followed Lin Muyu out of the meeting hall. The cavalry had already gathered in Guanxi and Guanyi. 100,000 cavalry were ready and waiting for the order. Attack! The war drums thundered, and the 8 gates of Phoenix Pass opened at the same time. Nearly 10 cavalrymen filed out of the pass side by side. The speed at which they set out was quite fast, and in the blink of an eye, they had gathered outside the pass in a dense black mass. Lin Muyu personally supervised the battle. She carried the Xianyuan sword and rode on the treading-in snow warhorse. She extended her spiritual pulse technique and discovered the 40,000 infantrymen at the back of the enemy's camp. She smiled and said, "Pass down my order. All the steel cavalry will circle around the enemy's camp from the north and attack Hisong's wolf soldiers from the north of Milin." "Yes." Chapter 1170. Hisong would never have thought that Lin Muyu could bypass the army at the rear with the mobility of the iron cavalry and go straight to the main force of the wolf soldiers. In the dark night, it was pitch black everywhere in the forest. Only the faint roar of the dragon came from the air, which made people shudder. Everyone knew that there were no dragon riders among the 200,000 wolf soldiers. Once they heard the roar of the dragon, it could only mean that the Longdan army camp had come. At the rear of the main force of the wolf army was a group of 10,000 light cavalry. Originally, the speed of the light cavalry should have been very fast, but the grass had been cut off 2 days ago, and the fertile land was covered in snow. In fact, the wolf army had not eaten for 2 days, so how could they have the strength to run? From the rear, there was a continuous dense and heavy sound of hooves. From the sound of the hooves stepping on the snow, it could be judged that they were all heavy cavalry. Otherwise, the sound would not be so heavy. Captaincy, who was in charge of the rear, was livid. He raised the spear in his hand and said, "Prepare for battle. They are coming." As soon as he finished speaking, suddenly there was a blue light in the dark night sky. It was the magic crystal crossbow. Whoosh, 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 the magic crystal crossbow quickly fell into the group of wolf soldiers and exploded in the blink of an eye, like beautiful blue flowers blooming. The amazing destructive power engulfed the bodies of the wolf soldiers and the horses, illuminated the sky, and set the surrounding trees on fire, providing excellent illumination for the army of the Qin Empire. The enemy was in the light while they were in the dark. This was the best fighting environment. Clang! The golden light was very dazzling in the night sky. It was Lin Muyu's Xianyuan sword. Without saying a word, he spurred his horse and charged straight over. Situ Sen, Si Kongyao, and the others also spurred their horses and galloped over. Groups of iron cavalries quickly killed the light cavalries of the wolf soldiers. In close combat, the light cavalries were no match for them at all. They could only be killed. The army swept over like a whirlwind, killing 10,000 light cavalries. Moreover, Lin Muyu did not need a second cavalry attack at all. He pointed his sword forward and led the Longdan army camp to continue to chase and kill. As for the remaining enemies in the rear, he left it to Liu Bai to deal with. Lin Muyu's strategy was to bite the tail of the wolf soldiers so that they wouldn't dare to turn back and couldn't turn back. This was Lin Muyu's strategy, and it was as if his lifeline had been grabbed. He was already terrified, and his thoughts were all seen through by his opponent. He Song knew that he would definitely die if he turned back and fought, but if he kept running forward, he might have a way out. It was also because of this that Lin Muyu led 100,000 iron cavalries to gallop forward at a very small cost, as if he was a whale devouring the entire Red Rock province. At daybreak, the mountains and plains for hundreds of miles were covered with the corpses of the wolf soldiers, but the chase did not stop. He Song, who was exhausted from running for his life, was completely terrified. He knew that Lin Muyu would definitely not let him go. Although He Song used to be the valley master of the Wolf Valley and had astonishing strength, he was now only at the Holy King realm, while Lin Muyu was at the Holy Heaven realm. If he encountered Lin Muyu, he would die in 3 moves. Lin Muyu could not tolerate him. Amidst the hurried galloping of horses, He Song looked up at the sky and started cursing, "Damned heavens, you gave Filet, Jin Chong, and Longxi demon bodies, but why are you so harsh on me? Is it not enough that I sacrificed 100,000 lives in Red Rock City to sacrifice my wolf soul? If I, He Song, am not fit to be a demon, then what right do Filet and Jin Chong have?" However, Heaven's will could not be defied. A captaincy, whose sword was stained with blood, rushed over and said in a low voice, "Commander, we can't run anymore. If we keep retreating, we will lose without even fighting." "What do you mean?" He Song said coldly, "Do you think we have a chance of defeating Lin Muyu if we turn around and fight now? But at least we will die for the Empire. We won't die so pitifully. Commander, this lowly general requests a battle." "Pa!" He Song sneered, "Who are you going to die for? Whose empire is this? Are you going to die for Yangshan? Do you think Yangshan cares about an ant like you? This lowly general." Captaincy was speechless. "Goddamn Lin Muyu." He Song raised his head and looked into the distance. "Despicable scum, lowly scum, using petty tricks to drag down my 200,000 wolf soldiers. Despicable and shameless." Captaincy said, "Commander, are we really not going to fight?" "Fight." He Song said indifferently, "I will lead the central army and continue to retreat. Pass the order to the left and right armies with 15,000 soldiers each. 30,000 wolf soldiers will intercept Lin Muyu at the canyon behind and kill them." "Yes." At noon, 30,000 exhausted wolf soldiers gathered in the valley. They dismounted from their horses and chewed on tasteless dry rations. They drank water from melted snow. Their faces were filled with fatigue. After running continuously for a night, the warhorses could no longer run. Many of the thoroughbred warhorses were even exhausted to death. Even if there was a battle, it was estimated that the cavalry would not be able to be used. "Forget it, let them go, these warhorses can't fight anymore." Captaincy murmured, "Pass the order down, everyone fight on foot and prepare to meet Lin Muyu's army. They will be here soon." "Yes." Everyone put away their rations, pulled out their swords and spears, and formed a square formation to wait for their pursuers. At the entrance of the valley, the sound of horses' hooves rumbled. The first thing that appeared in everyone's sight was the great Qin imperial flag with purple patterns and a dark blue background, followed by the Longdan army camp's flag embroidered with a dragon pattern. Warhorses snorted and heavily armored cavalry appeared in the valley. Lin Muyu's cavalry was also very tired. The warhorses dragged the heavy soldiers for 100 li, even 1,000 li horse could not bear it. At the front of the army, Lin Muyu was wearing a white imperial forest armor. She dismounted and led the treading snow warhorse into the valley step by step. The soldiers behind her also dismounted. Wei Chou asked, "Sir, are we going to fight with them as infantry?" "No, pass the order for the entire army to dismount and let the warhorses rest for the time it takes for a joss stick to burn. Then, we will mount and charge. We must finish off the tens of thousands of enemies in the valley within 2 hours." Yes. Lin Muyu had never been a pragmatic person. He only knew that the cavalry had a natural advantage over the infantry. He would never let his soldiers give up their advantage to face the enemy. That would be the performance of a stupid commander. On the contrary, the wolf soldiers in the valley were all stunned. They did not know what the Longdan army camp was planning. They only knew that their troops were increasing and covering the mountains and plains. It was impossible to escape. The time it took for a joss stick to burn passed very quickly. Lin Muyu turned over and mounted the horse. He held the Xianyuan sword and said, "Get on the horse and prepare to charge." The distance between the two sides was 500 meters, which was enough for the warhorses to accelerate to the speed of the charge. Once the warhorses charged the cavalry, the heavy cavalry was simply a nightmare for the infantry. Moreover, the enemy was a group of wolf soldiers who only had swords and spears. Wolf soldiers had always been known for their cruelty and speed, but in the face of the absolute defense of the heavy cavalry, their sharp claws and speed became extremely weak. As He Song had said, no matter how good He Song was at using troops, perhaps the 100,000 wolf soldiers would be a nightmare for the Longdan army camp. Unfortunately, He Song was not good at using troops. Instead, he was easily defeated by Lin Muyu at Phoenix Pass with a little trick. Kill. Situ-san raised his sword and rushed out with Lin Muyu. The rumbling of horse hooves shook the valley, and a blue ocean quickly drowned out the wolf army's phalanx that was growing smaller and smaller. The charge of the warhorses and the swift assassination of the cavalry had completely become the wolf army's nightmare. The 30,000 infantry did not seem to be fighting, but more like they were using their lives to cover He Song's escape. No more, no less. After a full 2 hours, the wolf soldiers in the valley had all turned into corpses. The mountains were covered with corpses, and the smell of blood filled the air. Continue to attack. Lin Muyu turned over and mounted the horse. He said, "Take off your armor and reduce the weight of the warhorses. Throw away the spears and only keep the swords to kill the enemy." Now. Everyone took off their armor. Desperate times call for desperate measures. In order to chase after He Song, this great enemy, Lin Muyu was also unscrupulous. The next evening, after killing countless wolf soldiers along the way, they were already less than 100 miles away from Red Rock City. They could even faintly see He Song's commander's flag. "Stop and rest for 10 minutes. After that, we will kill He Song in one go." Lin Muyu dismounted and found that the treading snow warhorse was already foaming at the mouth. The energy of a mount had been exhausted to the limit. If even treading snow was in such a state, there was no need to mention the other warhorses. More than half of the warhorses in the Longdan army camp were already lying on the ground from exhaustion. Thus, less than 10,000 people had followed Lin Muyu all the way here, and all of them were riding on high-quality warhorses. While the warhorses were resting, the group ate some dried meat and continued the chase. Along the way, there were wolf soldiers who could not run, and they were all killed. When they arrived at Red Rock City, they found that He Song had already led a small group of people into the city. Damn it, what a pity. Fengshi sighed. Red Rock City's defenses must be weak. Set up camp outside and try to break into the city tomorrow. Lin Muyu said. Yes. Wait a minute. Si Kongyao suddenly squinted her eyes and looked at the city. Brother Yu, what do you think that is? There seems to be someone waving a torch on the city wall. I'll go take a look. Lin Muyu rode straight to the city wall and saw a man wearing the armor of a general of the Shang army laughing. This general, Song Liangqing, has been waiting for Lin General for a long time. I believe that Lin General is here for this treasure. This general will give it to you. Shwa. A black object was thrown down from the city wall and rolled on the snowy ground. With the help of the Xianyuan sword's light, Lin Muyu was shocked. It was He Song's head. You killed He Song? He asked in shock. Yes. Song Liangqing smiled. He Song is a defeated general. Almost all the wolf soldiers were killed. When he is brought to Emperor Shang, he will be sentenced to death. On the other hand, Lin General, you have traveled a long way to Red Rock City. This general has prepared a gift for Lin General. Gift? Yes. Song Liangqing laughed. Beat the drums. On the city wall, the drums were beating loudly. Countless archers appeared by the city wall and fired a volley of arrows at Lin Muyu. At the same time, torches appeared in the forest far away. In the blink of an eye, they connected to each other. Oh no, Lin Muyu felt a sharp pain in his heart. The hunter had become someone else's prey. Yao, pass the order to retreat. The faster the better. He hurriedly turned around and ordered. Si Kongyao's face was filled with panic. At this time, the Longdan army camp was already exhausted. How could they be a match for Song Liangqing's elite troops? However, what Si Kongyao could not understand was why Song Liangqing would appear in Red Rock City when he was guarding the border between Red Rock Province and the Celestial Empire. There was only one answer. Qin Yu was 2,000 miles away from the Longdan army camp. How powerful was this person? Chapter 1171. On the city wall, Song Liangqing laughed out loud. Lin General, there's no need to run. You can't run away. I, Song Liangqing, have been ordered by Emperor Shang to lead 100,000 troops and have been waiting here for a long time just to welcome you. Drums were beating loudly all around them. There were sporadic swaying torches in the fertile fields in the distance. Song Liangqing was not lying. There were definitely 100,000 troops. Although most of them were infantrymen, the people in the Longdan army camp had not slept for 3 consecutive days. They had long reached their physical limits, and their warhorses could not move anymore. The appearance of the 100,000 enemy troops was like a nightmare. With a neigh, the treading in snow warhorse lost its front hooves and fell heavily in the dark snow. Si Kongyao hurried forward. Brother Yu, are you okay? I'm fine. Lin Muyu stood up from the muddy snow in a sorry state. She said, Yao, quick, order the 3 armies to retreat and meet up with Liu Bai's troops. Yes. Takshu, Lin Muyu looked at Takshu, who was struggling on the ground. She was already foaming at the mouth. Forget it. Go to where you should be. Don't get caught. Lin Muyu helped her to stand up. She cut the reins and patted Takshu's neck. Her face was full of desolation. She said, I didn't expect it to be time for me to release horses so soon. It's all my fault, it's all my fault. In the dark, Si Kongyao brought a group of people with her. They were all cavalrymen from the Longdan army camp. However, all of them had abandoned their warhorses. They were holding shiny steel sabers, and their faces were full of blood and exhaustion. Si Kongyao said, Brother, quickly retreat. Even if we become infantrymen, we still have at least 5,000 soldiers here. We'll protect you and rush out. Lin Muyu raised the Xianyuan sword and said, Let's rush out together. By the way, where is Su Jintao's division? Do not know. The night is too dark and quite a number of people were separated. Just received Yu Yu's letter that Wei Chou and Su Jiantao each led 5,000 men and were cruising nearby. Should we send out the retreat signal? Si Kongyao glanced around, and Fengxi, who was behind her, immediately took out an iron pipe and pulled the fuse in the air. This was a signal flare specially made with magic crystals. A blood-red light shot into the sky. This signal had never been used before, but this time it was necessary. The distant galloping of horses was getting closer and closer, and so was the light from the torches. From all directions, the Shang army was charging over like a tidal wave. In fact, there was no need to guess. The 100,000 Shang army must have planned this from the start. Taking advantage of the fact that the Longdan army camp was like an arrow at the end of its flight, they wanted to kill Lin Muyu and the others right here. Let's go. Lin Muyu raised her sword and commanded everyone to retreat. Her gaze inadvertently swept across Si Kongyao and Fengxi's faces. Si Kongyao had the cultivation of Holy King, but after 3 days and 3 nights of continuous travel, her strength had been greatly depleted. Even Lin Muyu was the same. The dou qi in her body had been depleted by nearly half, and those ordinary soldiers were even worse off. Even their hands that were holding onto their weapons were trembling. The galloping of horses was getting closer and closer, but in front of them was a flat plain. There was no way to escape. Lin Muyu could not help but feel a sharp pain in her chest. Were the Longdan army camp's elite veterans that had followed her for so many years really going to die in her hands? Fengxi shouted, "Lin General, we can't escape, let's fight." "No, the front 3,000 men leave, the rear 2,000 men follow me to bring up the rear." "Yes, sir." But when the order was passed down, the torches in front did not move. Several Kiliarchs flew over and knelt on the ground with their swords, their eyes red. "Lin General, we have followed you for so many years, braved through fire and water, and now that disaster is upon us, Lin General, do you not want us veterans anymore? We will not leave, we would rather die here with Lin General than leave. Obey my orders." Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice, "Don't forget, you are soldiers, obeying orders is your duty. I order you to retreat to the west immediately and meet up with Lu Bai's infantry camp." The Kiliarchs trembled, and one of them said with tears in his eyes, "Lin General, why do we have to lie to ourselves? Those who stay will die, and the one who should leave is Lin General, not us. The Empire can live without us, but it can't live without Lin General." Lin Muyu felt extremely uncomfortable, and his eyes were red as he said, "Today's defeat is all on me. I underestimated the enemy, and I was not considerate enough. Since we are all going to stay, then prepare to fight and kill as many as we can. If anyone dies before I kill a single person, I will punish him to be the scapegoat of the Spirit Fire Department when we reach the Ghost Realm." Everyone laughed loudly. Even Si Kongyao couldn't help but laugh involuntarily. However, there was more bitterness in her laughter. She knew that today might be her last battle. Although Lin Muyu was at the Divine Heaven Realm, he would definitely not be willing to abandon his soldiers and escape alone. Lin Muyu might die from exhaustion, and she would definitely not abandon her brother. Perhaps she would also die here. Thinking of this, Si Kongyao's eyes reddened, and tears flowed down uncontrollably. Lin Muyu slowly drew out the Xianyuan sword, and his cloak fluttered in the cold night. He turned to look at the cavalry and pikemen hundreds of meters away, and said calmly, "Don't forget the rules of our Longdan army camp. Set up the Cosmos sword formation to defend against the cavalry and pikemen. Be careful of the archers, they will arrive soon." "Yes." The 5,000 people quickly gathered on the plains, and the Cosmos sword formation was quickly set up by 500 people. The sound of the horses' hooves grew louder. Song Liangqing's subordinates numbered around 5,000. Each of them raised their sabers from afar and shouted something as they charged straight at the enemy. "Take the attack." Lin Muyu was at the very front of the sword formation, and he suddenly swept out with the Xianyuan sword. Instantly, a golden sword light swept across the ground, and nearly 100 cavalry quickly fell to the ground. The people at the back were already very fast, and they could not stop at all. They just charged straight over. Feeling a faint sense of weakness in his arm, Lin Muyu took a deep breath and started to use his martial soul. The 7 luminary celestial sword enveloped the Xianyuan sword, and he shot out sword chi that was about 3 meters long. He mainly attacked in a small area like this, or else his battle chi would be consumed too quickly. Crack, crack, crack. After 3 consecutive strikes, 3 cavalrymen fell off their horses, but the spear of the 4th cavalryman struck straight into Lin Muyu's chest. Clang! Sparks flew, and the spear was shaken off by the Chi-Yu armor. Lin Muyu took the opportunity to turn and kick the cavalryman off his horse. At the same time, countless cavalrymen charged over and hit the Cosmos sword formation at the back, and the sound of killing shook the sky. The soldiers of the Longdan army camp who formed the sword formation were already extremely weak, and they could not withstand the impact of the cavalry formation. In the blink of an eye, the sword formation was broken through one after another, and the sword light danced wildly, turning it into a chaotic battle. "Yao, follow me closely," Lin Muyu shouted as he retreated and killed the enemy. At the same time, he did not want Si Kongyao to die before him. Si Kongyao's sword danced with the ice profound art, and streams of ice soul sword chi shot into the cavalrymen's bodies. She quickly returned to Lin Muyu's side, and said, "Brother, there are too many of them, we can't stop them. Since we can't escape, we will kill as many as we can." "Yes." Lin Muyu suddenly opened his arms, and shouted in a low voice, "Acatosaurus, come out and help me." Roar, the dragon's aura burst out, and Acatosaurus broke through the air, opened its huge mouth, and bit a charging cavalryman into pieces. Then, it shook its huge head to shake off the cavalryman, and crouched down, making a respectful gesture to Lin Muyu. "Kill the enemies at will." Lin Muyu did not want to ride on Acatosaurus, and only ordered it to kill the enemies as quickly as possible. Roar. This was what Acatosaurus wanted to hear the most, and it swayed its huge body and rushed into the cavalrymen. At the same time, huge black shadows descended from the sky, and sword chi sprinkled into the crowd. It was the dragon cavalry led by Situ Sen and Situ Shui, but it seemed that there were not many of them, only a dozen of them. "Master, we are here." Situ Sen shouted, "How is it now?" "Just in time." Lin Muyu shouted, "Help us kill the enemies." Also, what about Su Jintao's troops? Wei Chao's 5,000 men are being held up by the enemy's 20,000 foot soldiers. This subordinate just came from Su Jintao's troops, and there are only a few Shang army swordsmen around him, and there are about 8,000 of them. He asked me to come and help master. Lin Muyu frowned. "General Sen, you stay with 3 dragon cavalry. General Shui, you lead the rest of the dragon cavalry to Wei Chao's troops, and help Wei Chou fend off the enemy." "Yes." "When will the troops behind us arrive?" "Their warhorses are already tired, and they will only arrive after dawn." Lin Muyu felt as if her heart was struck by a heavy blow, and she felt like vomiting blood. She swung her sword, and said, "Retreat while fighting, and slowly retreat out of Red Rock City." "Yes." Torches flickered in the southern forest, and the Shang army was increasing in numbers, while the Qin army was left with only a few men. Among the crowd, the warhorses had all fallen. Su Jiantao was wearing a commander's cape, and the 3 golden stars on his collar were stained with blood. His sword was chipped, and he looked at the troops coming from all directions, and muttered, "Why are there more and more of them?" At the side, Captaincy Zhang Han said, "Marquis, this is the south of Red Rock City. Since the Shang army has 100,000 soldiers lying in ambush here, the ambush in the south must be to cover their retreat. There should be at least 30,000 to 50,000 of them, and they are attacking towards the north to surround Lin General's troops." "Lin General," Su Jiantao shuddered, and said, "Send my order, raise the commander's flag, and lure them here. We will stay here, and block the ambush for Lin General." "But the Marquis." Zhang Han gritted his teeth, and said, "If that's the case, we won't be able to escape." "Who can escape tonight?" Su Jiantao faintly smiled. He lowered his head and used the back of his cloak to wipe off the blood on his blade. He said, "Immediately pass down my order. Tell our brothers to raise the marshal's flag. If we die here, Marshal Lin will definitely avenge us." "Yes, Commander." Chapter 1172. The swordsmen were at the front, and the archers were at the back. When Su Jiantao led the 5,000 Longdan army camp and killed nearly 2,000 enemy soldiers, he found that only a few of his own soldiers were left. The mountains were covered with the bodies of the Longdan army camp soldiers. Most of them died of exhaustion. If they were not exhausted, how could they have been defeated by this motley crew? "Retreat," Continue to retreat. Su Jiantao carried the bloody sword and continued to retreat. Looking behind him, in the darkness of the night, a lonely cliff appeared in the forest behind him. He couldn't help but ask, "What mountain is that?" "Bugu Mountain," Zhang Han said. "Okay, retreat to Bugu Mountain." "Yes." More than 1,000 people from the Longdan army camp followed Su Jiantao up the mountain. Along the way, they were ambushed and killed by the enemy's light cavalry. Hundreds of bodies were left on the mountainside. Many of these people were veterans of the Longdan army camp. Su Jiantao felt as if his heart was being twisted by a knife. Those veterans were his brothers for many years. Now, they had all died miserably under cold arrows and butchers' knives. Even their chances of returning to their homeland with their corpses on the battlefield were rather slim. It was getting colder and colder on Bugu Mountain. Su Jiantao was panting. He was old and a veteran. "Marquis, take a break?" Zhang Han said. "Yes." Su Jiantao almost fell on a rock. He leaned his sword to the side and looked at the dense torches at the foot of the mountain. He could not help but laugh. "Marquis, why are you laughing?" Zhang Han asked in surprise. Su Jiantao laughed and said, "I'm laughing that this motley crew really thinks I'm Lin General. Ha ha ha, look at the people at the foot of the mountain. There are at least 50,000 of them. If there were 50,000 people here, Lin General should be able to escape. Zhang Han, we have made a great contribution." Zhang Han smiled bitterly and said, "What should we do?" "Die here." "Die here." Su Jiantao looked up at him and said, "Zhang Han, if I remember correctly, your wife gave birth to a daughter not long ago, right?" "Yes." "Old friend, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have let you die here with me." Zhang Han sat down on the ground, a bitter smile on his face. To be able to die together with a hero like the Marquis in a foreign land, this is my, Zhang Han's, honor. It's just that, thinking of not being able to return to my hometown, thinking of not being able to see my wife smile again, sigh, if I could return to my hometown one more time, I would rather die without regrets. I hope that after the war, our corpses can be transported back to our hometown for burial." Su Jiantao laughed. He laughed so hard that he started coughing violently. He said, "Loyal bones are buried everywhere in Qingshan. Why do we need to bury our corpses on the battlefield, Marquis?" At this moment, several captains rushed over, knelt down and said, "Commander, they are going up the mountain. There are so many of them. I'm afraid we can't resist a second attack." "It doesn't matter. We have stalled them here for 4 hours. It's enough." Su Jiantao stood up and pulled out the blade from the ground with one hand. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with tears. He looked up at the sky and laughed, "Bugu Mountain, I never thought that Bugu Mountain would be my, Su Jiantao's, burial ground. Ha 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 ha. Heaven's will, I'm not alone. I, Su Jiantao, have followed Lin General and fought for more than 10 years, all for the sake of ruling the world. Brothers, charge with me. Our blood will not be shed in vain." Everyone pulled out their weapons and followed Su Jiantao down the slope. At the foot of the mountain, a dense group of swordsmen went up the mountain cautiously. Among the crowd, a deputy commander, wearing 3 gold stars, rode on a warhorse, holding a sharp sword in his hand. He sneered and said, "Behead all the wounded soldiers of the Qin army on the mountain road." "Yes." The infantrymen rushed over. Regardless of whether they were alive or dead, they chopped off the heads of the soldiers of the Longdan army camp who could not move. Their blood sprayed on the snow. Deputy Commander Sun Huan. A chiliarch said in a low voice, "I've got the news. Lin Muyu's troops are not here. The man here is Su Jiantao." "Su Jiantao?" Sun Huan's eyes turned cold. "The Su Jiantao who shocked the West Sea?" "Yes." "Humph, it's good that it's Su Jiantao. Killing him will be a great merit. Charge and kill. Don't leave a single one alive. After we catch Su Jiantao, I will tear him into pieces." Everyone was slightly shocked. Then, they quickly searched up the mountain. Not long after, flames rose in front of them. It was Su Jiantao who led the hundreds of people of the Longdan army camp and rushed down. They quickly fought with the infantrymen in front of them. Sun Huan's eyes were cold. Looking at the swordsman dying on the ground, he couldn't help but frown and said, "It's said that the Longdan army camp is the strongest army in the world. Now it seems that it is true. Even though they are exhausted, they still have such great combat strength. If they are still alive, how powerful will they be? Archers, shoot them down for me." "But Deputy Commander, there are still our men on the battlefield." "Cut the crap. Fire the arrows." Yes. Arrows and crossbows shot everywhere. Instantly, the battlefield was dyed red with blood. Pfft. An arrow pierced through Su Jintao's left arm. His body trembled slightly. But what made him even more distressed was that Zhang Han had already been shot 7 or 8 times. "Zhang Han!" He shouted, but Zhang Han could no longer make a sound. Even his throat had been pierced. "Protect the Marquis." The few people left in the Longdan army camp quickly went to protect Su Jiantao. They were all killed by the arrows. At the same time, Sun Huan walked forward with his long sword. He laughed and said, "Stop shooting. I want to cut off Su Jintao's head with my own hands. Go, surround him." Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. A huge demonic shadow gathered in the sky. The murderous nature here seemed to have attracted the attention of the heavens. In the clouds, a purple gold scroll slowly unfolded and illuminated the earth. It was the Heavenly Book of Sealing. On the Heavenly Book of Sealing, a name was faintly discernible, Sun Huan. Sun Huan's murderous nature was too strong. He was about to be sealed as a demon. However, at this moment, the arrow-filled corpses of the 2 soldiers in the Longdan army camp were pushed away. 3 arrows were stuck in Su Jintao's chest, but the blade in his hand was surging with endless starlight. It was the first skill of the star technique taught by Lin Muyu, first appearance of starlight. "Are you going to become a demon?" Su Jiantao dashed forward with frightening eyes. He shouted, "Be *starred, how about becoming a demon with me?" "Ah." Sun Huan was about to be sealed as a demon, but he didn't have that unparalleled power yet. He opened his mouth and watched Su Jintao's lightning-fast attack. The long sword was already broken, and a part of it pierced into Sun Huan's mouth. Pfft! The broken sword came out of his head. Su Jiantao was so decisive that he killed Sun Huan before he could be sealed as a demon. Pfft, pfft, pfft. Another dozens of arrows shot into Su Jintao's body. He staggered back, but his eyes were full of smiles. He laughed loudly, and blood spurted out of his throat. Propping the broken sword on the ground, he slowly sat down under a pine tree. With a smile on his face, he slowly closed his eyes, and his body became cold. Ah, the Shang army was dumbfounded. "Vice Commander is dead. Vice Commander is dead." At this moment, the sound of a horn came from afar. It was the signal to retreat. "Commander has ordered the retreat. Go, go." The people shouted themselves hoarse. No one was willing to become enemies with a demon like Su Jiantao. He was able to kill a demon before he died. What kind of hero was he? The Shang army had indeed retreated. Their plan was to take advantage of the situation to kill Lin Muyu's troops. However, they knew that once Lin Muyu's reinforcements arrived, they wouldn't have any chance of winning. Therefore, before daybreak, the Shang army quickly retreated, abandoning Red Rock City. When the sun pierced through the clouds, the ground was filled with scars and corpses. It was a mess of war. On the snowy plains in the west, Lin Muyu was exhausted. She led the 3,000 exhausted Longdan army camp soldiers out of the encirclement. Not far away, the figures of Wei Chao's troops appeared. Wei Chou. Wei Chou, Lin Muyu felt a sharp pain in his arm. Si Kongyao hurriedly supported him. She frowned and said, "Brother, don't move. Your arm was hit by 3 arrows. You can't move like this anymore." Dozens of meters away, Wei Chou fell off his horse. Tears flowed from his eyes. Lord, I just received news that Su Jiantao died in battle on Mount Bugu. He died in battle, what? Lin Muyu took a few steps back in disbelief. She mumbled, how is this possible? He is Su Jiantao. He is the Cangnan master. Wei Chou knelt on the ground and sat on the ground like a child. He cried loudly, it's true. The news just came from Mount Bugu. Mount Bugu. Lin Muyu leaned on the Xian Yuan's sword and looked in the direction of Mount Bugu in the distance. She walked over step by step and murmured, impossible, impossible. I want to see it with my own eyes. You are all lying to me. My Cangnan master Su Jiantao is invincible. How could he die? It can't be. Mount Bugu had been surrounded by the Longdan army camp. Half of the snow on the mountain was dyed red with blood. Along the way, there were corpses of Su Jiantao's soldiers everywhere. Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Si Kongyao, Fengxi, and others walked up the bloody mountain step by step. They saw many soldiers of the Longdan army camp who had been beheaded. The pine tree swayed slowly in the wind. Su Jiantao's body was cold, and the blood on the arrow wound had frozen. He looked very peaceful, and even the corners of his mouth were slightly raised. The broken sword in his hand was propped on the ground, deeply pierced into the soil. He had been hit by more than 20 arrows, and his feathers were trembling slightly in the wind. Lin Muyu was speechless and wept. She sat beside Su Jiantao's body and leaned against the pine tree with tears rolling down her cheeks. Brother Yu, Si Kongyao wanted to comfort him, but she didn't know how. The wound on Lin Muyu's arm was bleeding and the white gauze was stained with blood. Her tears fell on the blood-stained white cloak. She said bitterly, Brother, I really shouldn't have brought you from the holy temple to the Longdan army camp. From then on, you all thought that I, Lin Muyu, was a clever strategist and that I, Lin Muyu, would never lose a battle. Now I'm like a stray dog. I can't even save your life, and now I'm plotted against like a piece of trash, Your Excellency. Wei Chou's eyes turned red. Please don't be like this. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth so hard that her lips started to bleed. However, she couldn't feel the pain anymore. She said in a sobbing tone, Cangnan master, I feel sorry for you all my life. You've been risking your life for so many years. It's you who defeated the armored demons with the shield cavalry. You got the title of Cangnan master, but it was taken away by the Congress. I didn't even say a word. I, Lin Muyu, feel sorry for you all my life. I'm too self-righteous, too smart, Your Excellency, please don't say any more. Wei Chou knelt on the snow. Behind him, Feng Jixing, Situ Sen, and Situ Shui all knelt down. In the blink of an eye, all the people on the mountainside had knelt down. Lin Muyu looked at the quivering arrow feather on Su Jiantao's chest and her eyes turned red. She continued, I originally planned to wait until the war is over to think of a way to get you the method of immortality. I originally planned to use my life to ensure that all the generals of the Brave Dragon Battalion would die a good death after the unification, but God didn't give me time. I was powerless. With tears streaming down her face, Si Kongyao said, Brother Yu, we all understand. Please don't say any more. As if she didn't hear Si Kongyao's words, Lin Muyu roared at the sky, Qin Yu, Song Liangqing, I swear I'll kill you. If I don't crush you into ashes, I, Lin Muyu, swear I'm not a human. Puff, he suddenly opened his mouth and vomited blood. His breath became extremely chaotic and weak. He slowly stood up with the Xian Yuan sword in his hand, but the sword light also became dim. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly fell on the snow. Chapter 1173. On the 1st of February, it was snowing heavily, and the weather was extremely cold. Outside Red Rock City, supplies were continuously transported over. At the same time, officials from the various prefectures in the province sent letters of surrender, expressing their willingness to become citizens of the Qin Empire. At noon, the winged cavalry from Blazing Prairie Province sent the letter of surrender. Because the governor of Blazing Prairie Province had no military strength, he was willing to offer the governor's seal. However, all official business was halted because of Lin Muyu's coma. In the residence in Red Rock City, Wei Chou, Situ Sen, Situ Shui, Si Kongyao, and the rest were anxiously pacing back and forth in the living room of Lin Muyu's room. Si Kongyao held a cup of green tea in her hand and said, "Wei Chou, stop pacing back and forth. My eyes are getting dizzy from all the walking." Wei Chou gritted his teeth and said, "Sir has been unconscious for a long time. What should we do?" Si Kongyao's gaze was gloomy as she said, "Brother has been fighting for 3 days and 3 nights. He took the lead and almost exhausted all his battle energy. Then, he was overly sad because of Tsangnan Master's death in battle. Sigh, let's see what Sister Chu Yao has to say after diagnosing him." At this moment, the door opened with a creak. Chu Yao, who was dressed in the white robes of the spiritual medicine department, walked out. She frowned and said, "He has been having a high fever since this morning and is very weak. He needs to recuperate for a period of time. Let's not disturb him for the time being. I will stay here and focus on taking care of him." Si Kongyao opened her small mouth. Chu Yao said, "Go in and take a look if you want to. He is not awake yet. In a while, give him a bowl of porridge. Otherwise, the nutrients in his body will not be able to keep up." "Okay." Si Kongyao strode into the room and saw that Lin Muyu was unconscious. Chu Yao looked at the generals in the hall and said, "Don't you know what to do when you isn't here? Don't forget, all of you are Yu's trusted generals. You needs to rest now, so don't bother him with your military and political affairs. Otherwise, I won't agree." Wei Chou smiled awkwardly. "Yes, Great Deacon. We understand, but, just what? The Prairie Province has decided to surrender. We don't know if it's true or not, and we haven't responded yet. Isn't it very simple?" Chu Yao raised her eyebrows and said, "The Prairie Province did not have many soldiers in the first place, and they were almost annihilated by the Longdan army camp this time. Moreover, the Prairie Province is located in the south. To the east is an insurmountable mountain range, to the west is the Liaison Province, and to the north is the Red Rock Province. They have been trapped in the south and have no choice but to surrender. Wei Chou, you can send a Chiliarch and 10 civil officials to recruit the troops of the Prairie Province and regulate the internal affairs of the province. In that case, even if they are deceiving us, we won't suffer too much loss." "Yes, I'll do it soon. If Lin General can do it, I'll tell him that it's Great Deacon Chu Yao's order." "Humph, you're still the commander of the Longdan army camp. You're really afraid of taking responsibility." "Ha." Wei Chou laughed bitterly. "Great Deacon, you may not know this, but Wei Chou is a general, and the recruitment of provinces is done by the civil officials. It's not my turn. I think, the Great Deacon of the Spiritual Medicine Department should be considered a civil official. With your words, I can handle it without worry." "Yes. Oh yes, there's one more thing." Wei Chou, who was at the door, suddenly stopped and turned around. Her Highness Yin and Princess Xi are in Shiping City presiding over the memorial ceremony for the soldiers who died in the Battle of Longyuan. Should we inform Her Highness about the news of Lin General's coma? Chu Yao bit her red lips and said, "No, this will only make Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi worry in vain. Just tell them that Hongyan Province has been conquered. Also, tell them about the news of Commander Su Jintao's death. Send a Dragon Knight to Xishan Province with Commander Su Jintao's body. They should arrive within half a day. Give him a proper burial. He's a meritorious hero of the Empire." "Yes, I understand." In the room, Lin Muyu's eyes were closed and she was unconscious. Her body was trembling slightly as if she was having a nightmare. Her forehead was drenched in sweat. "Brother, Si Kongyao wiped her brother's sweat. Her pretty face was filled with worry. Chuyao walked in again and said, Miss Sikong, don't worry too much. Yu's body is strong. This time, he's just suffering from some serious injuries, excessive grief, and anxiety. He'll wake up soon. He needs to recuperate now, so let's not disturb him. Let's go. There are many things waiting to be done in Hongyan province. As the commander of the Baizhe mercenaries, you have many things to do. Yes, thank you, Sister Chuyao, for the reminder. Si Kongyao pursed her red lips and said, I'll be in the military field. Once brother wakes up, please send someone to inform me. Okay, go. Si Kongyao left reluctantly. Chuyao sat on the side of the bed and looked at Lin Muyu's pale face. She said, why don't you take care of your body? Look, so many people are worried about you. Hurry up and wake up. If you don't wake up, I'm afraid you'll miss Su Jintao's funeral. West Mountain Province, beside the Green Mountains outside Longyuan. Hongyan Province was less than 1,000 miles away from here. Situ Sen and Situ Shui's dragon riders arrived in half a day. On the snowy ground, the civil and military officials of the empire were solemnly standing, paying their respects to the fallen soldiers. Situ Sen is here. Feng Jixing raised his head and said. Qian Feng frowned and said, there's been no news from the Red Rock province for 3 days in a row. Situ Sen must have brought some news. Yes, a total of 4 giant dragons landed on the empty ground in front of the crowd. Situ Sen slid down from the dragon's back and knelt. Subject Situ Sen pays his respects to your highness and Princess Shi. Get up, Qin Yin, who was wearing a white empress robe, said, General Sen, how is brother you? Everything is going well. Situ Sen's eyes were red as he mumbled, we, the Longdan army camp, defended Fenghuang Pass for almost 10 days, exhausting the morale and provisions of Hisong's army of 250,000. When Hisong retreated, Lin General ordered us to chase after him non-stop. For 3 days and 3 nights, we killed our way from Fenghuang Pass to Hongyan City and almost annihilated Hisong's army. But, that goddamn Qin actually sent his general Song Liangqing to lead 100,000 elites to ambush us. The vanguard of the Longdan army camp was almost wiped out, and Lin General was seriously injured. Ah? Qin Yin's body trembled slightly, and she asked anxiously, is brother you alright? Lin General is fine, he's just seriously injured. Situ Sen's eyes were filled with tears, but in order to cover for Lin General, Su Jiantao led 5,000 soldiers to stop the 50,000 bandits. They were besieged on Bugu Mountain, and after a night of bloody battle, he died for his country. Situ Sen knelt on the ground, tears flowing down his face. No one would have thought that the valiant general would cry so unscrupulously. He knelt there, stabbed his sword into the ground, and curled up like a pitiful shrimp. The camaraderie between soldiers was something that outsiders could never understand, not to mention Situ Sen and Su Jiantao, who belonged to the Longdan army camp, were close friends who had gone through thick and thin together for many years. Behind them, 2 dragon knights carried Su Jiantao's coffin down the dragon's back. Su Jiantao's body was wrapped by a purple flower flag, and he looked very serene before his death, even smiling. Feng Jixing, Zhang Wei, Qin Yan, and others' eyes turned red, and they all knelt on the ground with one knee. Even Qin Yin, the female monarch, also knelt down slowly, and murmured, bury Su Jiantao in the first place of the Longyuan country tomb, and confer him the title of Duke Zhangnan. His son will inherit his father's title, and the title will be passed down from generation to generation. After the establishment of the nation, the titles of Duke, Marquis, Earl, and Viscount were deposed one after another, and almost all the titles were conferred to some heroes who died for the country, which was understandable. Situ Sen stepped forward, and said, Your Highness, please don't be too sad. In this battle, the Longdan army camp killed nearly 200,000 enemies, and lost more than 50,000 soldiers. What about Lin General? Qin Yin moved her red lips, and asked, How is Lin General? Oh, Lin General suffered a minor injury, and is now in Hongyan City to take charge of the overall situation. Really? Yes. Qin Yin didn't seem to believe Su Jintao's words. She knew Lin Muyu's character very well. Su Jintao was Lin Muyu's beloved general, and they had been close friends for so many years. Now that Su Jintao died in battle, how heavy the blow to Lin Muyu must be. Feng Jixing stepped forward and said, "Your Highness, after Duke Cangnan's body is sent into the tomb, you must read the eulogy yourself." "Yes, I know." Feng Jixing glanced at Situsen again, and asked, "Is you all right?" "Please rest assured, Deputy Commander, Lin General is fine." "Fine, oh, that's good." Feng Jixing frowned, and didn't say anything more. Someone took the lead to sing the Empire's war song, the Song of the Autumn Goose. Soon, the soldiers were also singing. Many of them were wounded, and came to send their brothers on their last journey. At this time, what better way to express the sorrow in their hearts than the Song of the Autumn Goose? The world is vast, the mountains and rivers are magnificent. The cold moonlight shone into the battlefield. The rice is green, and the breeze is blowing. The Empire's warriors go to war together. Kill all the jackals and wolves, and live a frivolous life. Who will comfort my wounds? The road home can no longer be seen. Anxiously waiting, only to sigh at the high mountains and long rivers. Unhindered in all directions, forever defending the country. What harm is there for the soul to return to the ends of the earth? The warrior's robe is broken, where will he be buried? The autumn goose, please take my soul back to my hometown. The road home can no longer be seen. The road home can no longer be seen. Feng Jixing mourned, and his heart couldn't help but twitch. Who would be the next to die? Situsen looked up at the snowy sky, and faintly heard the sorrowful cries of birds. It was already spring, but it was still snowing heavily. Situsen's voice trembled, and he shouted to the sky, Autumn goose, if you are really here, please take Su Jintao's soul back to his hometown, so that when we, the living, go back to drink, we can accompany him. Su Jintao loves to discuss the world with warm wine. Quickly take him home, don't leave him here alone. Feng Jixing, Zhang Wei, and the others couldn't help but twitch, and tears rolled down. Chapter 1174. Blood Red, a Blood Red World. The trees were blood red, the water was blood red, the mountains were blood red, and even the sky was blood red. Where am I? Lin Muyu stood in the blood red field in a daze. The sound of horses' hooves came from afar. He hurriedly reached behind him to grab something, but he couldn't catch anything. The Xianyuan sword had disappeared. In the blood-red field, a dense group of cavalrymen charged over. They waved their sharp blades, roared, and cursed. Their spears and sharp swords glinted with cold light as they charged straight at Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu wanted to run, but his feet were as heavy as lead, and he couldn't move at all. At the same time, he was shocked to find that the armor of these cavalrymen was exactly the same as the special armor of the Longdan army camp. The battle flag they were holding had a gorgeous purple flower flying in the air. They were the Longdan army camp. Lin Muyu's eyes widened. You, the cavalrymen roared angrily, waved their weapons, and rushed over. They were actually cursing loudly. Lin Muyu, what right do you have to exchange our lives for your fame? You coward, why did we die instead of you? Even a good man like Su Jintao died, why didn't you? Lin Muyu stood there in a daze, trembling all over. At this moment, he realized that these were the soldiers of the Longdan army camp who had died in the battle. They were full of resentment, as if they had returned from purgatory. Come on, Lin Muyu slowly knelt down, raised his head to look at the cavalryman, and said with tears in his eyes, I don't want to live in guilt for the rest of my life. If killing me can make you feel better, then kill me. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Brothers, I was too conceited and let you die tragically. I'm sorry. Brother you. Brother. A voice suddenly rang in his ears. Lin Muyu's body continued to fall, as if he was about to fall into the blood-colored world's vortex. He cried bitterly and desperately reached out to grab something, but there was nothing he could grab. When she suddenly woke up, she found herself lying on the bed, soaked in sweat, and sitting next to her was Si Kongyao. At this time, Si Kongyao seemed to be scared out of her wits. Lin Muyu hugged her tightly. It turned out that the person who woke her up in her dream was Si Kongyao. "Brother, are you all right?" Si Kongyao murmured. I'm fine." Lin Muyu let go of Si Kongyao's hand and muttered, "This is Red Rock City, right?" "Yes." "How long have I been asleep?" 5 days and 5 nights. Si Kongyao helped him sit up and said, "Brother, did you have a nightmare just now?" "Yes, I dreamt of my dead brothers." Lin Muyu finally realized that there were tears on her face. She hurriedly wiped them away and said, "No one has forgiven me. I'm the one who caused everyone to fall into such a desperate situation." Si Kongyao frowned and said, "No one can do better than you." War has always been unpredictable, so why does brother have to constantly let himself sink into self-blame? I believe that the soldiers who sacrifice themselves for their country will not hate you. On the contrary, they hope that you can pull yourself together and avenge them. Avenge, yes, avenge. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "My battle with Qin has just begun." At this time, Chu Yao pushed open the door and entered, saying, "All right, just in time. I have a bowl of porridge here. Drink it first, you haven't eaten in a long time." "Big sister Chu Yao, why are you here?" "I'm here." Chu Yao smiled slightly. "How can I not worry when you're like this? What's more, there are tens of thousands of wounded soldiers in Red Rock City. How can I not come as the head attendant of the medicine department?" "Thank you, no need to be so polite. Eat first." "Yes." Lin Muyu was indeed hungry and drank 3 bowls of porridge in a row. Chu Yao insisted that he should not eat too much, otherwise he could drink 10 bowls. Si Kongyao smiled at the side and said, "Big brother, let me tell you a piece of good news. During the 5 days that you were unconscious, the various prefectures and commanderies of the Red Rock province have surrendered, and they've stationed our troops there and replaced them with our officials. Besides that, the Prairie Blaze province has surrendered as well. Now, the Governor-General's seal is with us, and the entire Darkstone Empire has been incorporated into Great Qin's territory." "Really?" "Yes. Unfortunately, we still suffered a crushing defeat at Red Rock City. Even Su Jiantao died for his country." Lin Muyu slowly leaned against the headboard and said, "Yao, don't you think I'm useless? When we were defending Phoenix Pass, I was already thinking of a strategy to chase after He Song's troops. At that time, Qin Yu had already sent 100,000 troops under Song Liangqing to Red Rock City. From that moment on, my thoughts were completely seen through by Qin Yu. This battle was a complete and utter defeat." Si Kongyao looked at him with a gloomy gaze and said, "From the start of the Battle of the Eastern Sea, you've always been a step ahead of Qin Yu. You even forced him to withdraw from the naval battle and flee to Fire Source Province like a stray dog. Brother, you've won countless times, but only lost once. How can you constantly blame yourself? If it were anyone else, no one would have done a better job than you. This is your responsibility, and only you can shoulder this responsibility. Do you understand? If it weren't for you, Baizei's mercenaries wouldn't have served. If it weren't for you, the prefectures of the 2 provinces wouldn't have surrendered so quickly. The merits and demerits are all on you. You don't have to blame yourself. There's no such thing as an unbeatable general in this world. Perhaps losing a battle is the true you. Furthermore, did we really lose this battle? The Longdan army camp was besieged by Song Liangqing's 100,000 troops. More than 20,000 died, but Song Liangqing also lost 40,000. The soldiers of the Longdan army camp didn't bring shame to you. They died a good death. It's just that the price of this battle was too high. Lin Muyu said in a low voice, "Losing Su Jiantao was like losing an arm." "I know." Si Kongyao said gently, "No one blames you. Rest well. We still need you to take charge of the situation in the future. Lin Muyu stretched her arms. Is there any other news? Yes, the second batch of troops from the Lingdong province has arrived at the celestial pole continent. There's a total of 450,000 troops. The 60,000 troops of the Dragon League and 90,000 armor demons have arrived at the West Mountain province. Now, we have 600,000 troops in the West Mountain province. It's enough to wipe out the remaining troops of Yangshang. Oh. Lin Muyu said with a dispirited expression. I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Now, it's not a tripartite confrontation. Qin is the strongest. Qin Yu isn't an idiot. When we attack Yangshang, Qin Yu will definitely find a chance to attack our weakest point. I'll inform Brother Feng to be careful later. You rest first. Okay. Searing cold city, in the palace hall, the banquet had been held for a whole 5 days. Qin Yu was dressed in a dragon robe and was in high spirits. The civil and military officials below the throne were all talented people. At this time, the Celestial Empire had 800,000 troops and could be said to be the overlord of a region. Their momentum was even greater than that of Yangshang. Song Liangsheng had made a name for himself after defeating the elites of the Longdan army camp, wiping out 20,000 elites of the Longdan army camp, seriously injuring Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and killing the famous general Su Jiantao. Now, he had been promoted to the rank of general and was also the deputy commander of the Celestial Empire. He was flushed with success and naturally had nothing to say. After putting down the white jade wine goblet in his hand, Song Liangsheng cupped his hands and said with a smile, Your Majesty, the heavenly great continent can be said to be a tripartite confrontation. Among them, the Qin state is the strongest while the kingdom of Shang is the weakest. Half a day ago, we received news that close to 500,000 troops from the Qin state have already arrived at the West Mountain province. Now, they can be said to be strong and well-trained. We must plan ahead. Chen Yu nodded and smiled. We understand, but let's wait for the right time. Before the Qin army makes a move, we need to continue lying low and wait for the best opportunity to strike. Right, how is Lin Muyu? Marshal Wei Qiang replied, Your Majesty, our spies in Red Rock City have sent back news that Lin Muyu has been unconscious for 5 days and 5 nights. For the time being, he has not attended any military meetings, and no one has seen any trace of him. In addition, the great deacon of the Qin State's Spiritual Medicine Department, Chu Yao, has appeared in Red Rock City. However, she has locked herself in her room and has not come out. She should be treating Lin Muyu's injuries. Qin Yu's gaze was indifferent as he said, Lin Muyu is our greatest worry. If Lin Muyu dies from his injuries, General Song, we will bestow upon you the title of Marquis of 10,000 households. Song Liangsheng was overjoyed. Your Majesty, you have a flood of good fortune. Lin Muyu will not be able to escape death. Zhou Binlong said, Your Majesty, Lin Muyu's physical injuries are a small matter, but his heart is the most serious. Su Jiantao was his right-hand man. Now that Su Jiantao has been killed by our army, Lin Muyu's entire army has suffered a setback. Your Majesty, think about it. From the battle at the Eastern Sea, to breaking through the Northern Pass, to destroying Qianshan City within 2 hours, to finally defeating Yisong's army outside Fenghuang Pass, this Lin Muyu has been unstoppable all along the way. Such an elite army has long become a proud soldier, but now, they have been defeated by our army at Red Rock City, suffering heavy casualties. The loss of Lin Muyu's elite vanguard is a small matter, but the blow to his confidence is the most important. As long as we advance step by step, I believe that Lin Muyu will no longer be able to do anything. Chen Yu shook his head and said with a smile, No, Commander Zhou has underestimated Lin Muyu. This man is good at scheming and forbearance. He is as immovable as a mountain and as swift as fire. Right now, Lin Muyu is like a wounded lion. Once he recovers, his sharp claws will be able to tear everything apart. Compared to what you have said, I would rather Lin Muyu remain unconscious and die among the wounded. Your Majesty. Wei Qiang said, ever since we withdrew from Huiyuan province, there are only a few thousand local defenders left in this province. It is completely empty. The Qin army has not been stationed here, and Yangshang does not have the guts to enter either. Why don't we station our troops in Huiyuan province and wait for the right time? No. Qin Yu waved his hand and said, Feng Jixing is not a fool. Why doesn't he enter Huiyuan province? That is because Huiyuan province is the battlefield of 3 battles. Once he enters, he will be attacked from all sides. Whoever enters Huiyuan province first will become the target of public criticism. On the contrary, Huiyuan province has no one stationed here, but it has become a natural barrier between Qin, Shang, and Tianjua province. Our enemy is still Lin Muyu. Our current military strategy is to eliminate Lin Muyu first, then Feng Jixing, and finally Yangshang. In this way, we will have accomplished a great deed. Your Majesty is wise. Chapter 1175. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days had passed. Everything was peaceful. Both the Qin and Shang dynasties needed time to recuperate while the Celestial Empire remained dormant. In the past month, Lin Muyu had been working hard and preparing for war. What he did the most was to prepare provisions and weapons. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had also come from Xishan province and brought 150,000 elite soldiers to help Lin Muyu defend the 3 provinces in the south. To the Qin Empire, these 3 provinces were the backlands of the Qin Empire. They had to be defended well, otherwise, they would not be able to establish a foothold in this foreign land. Spring had arrived, but there was no sign of spring in the world. Every 3 to 5 days, there would be a heavy snowfall, and the temperature was always fluctuating around the melting ice and snow. Hongyan City was a strong city. When He Song ruled Hongyan City, he was cruel and merciless. He captured civilians and sacrificed them for wolf souls. This caused a lot of complaints. However, after the Qin Empire occupied Hongyan City, they immediately issued a notice to pacify the people. They copied thousands of imperial charters and distributed them to all the prefectures and prefectures. They ordered the entire nation to follow the constitution and rule the country according to it. After all, even the empress had to follow this decree. Thus, the entire society became orderly. What the people needed was actually very simple: a sense of security, a guarantee of life, and fairness. Lin Muyu's injuries gradually healed. Although the speed was much slower than expected, it was still better. Early in the morning, Ren Baqian, who was wearing the marshal's cloak, slowly walked out of his room and came to the bitterly cold courtyard. He saw that the peach blossoms in the courtyard had not bloomed yet. Only the small flower buds were covered with snow. If the weather continued to be cold, it was likely that they would not bloom this year. Those flower buds would freeze to death as the weather changed. Sigh. Lin Muyu looked up at the peach branches and couldn't help but sigh. The weather was still cold. This could only mean that the aura of the demonic world was still surging and seeping into the 6 realms. Although the heavenly punishment had passed, the chaos was still there. You're up. Behind him, Qin Yin's gentle laughter could be heard. Come, drink some hot soup first. Thank you, Xiao Yin. Lin Muyu turned around and took the soup. She then looked at Qin Yin's beautiful face and said, Xiao Yin, is there any news from the West Mountain Province and the Kingdom of Shang? Not yet. Qin Yin blinked her eyes and said, for the time being, General Feng, Qian Feng, and Ding Shi are watching over there. It's okay. Brother Yu, the most important thing is to take good care of your body. Lin Muyu drank a mouthful of soup and continued to look at the peach branches. This year's peach blossoms won't bloom. Yeah, maybe. Qin Yin clenched her fists and looked at the footprints on the snow. She said thoughtfully, Brother Yu, have you ever considered, what did you consider? Hand over the military power and let Wei Chou control the Longdan army camp and Baizhe mercenaries? Qin Yin said carefully, I'm worried about your body, so don't waste your energy. Xiao Shi thinks the same. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She looked down at her and said, Xiao Yin, you're not worried about my body. You're worried about my confidence, right? After the defeat at Red Rock City, are you worried that I'll develop a psychological fear of Qin Yu? Qin Yin stammered, tacitly agreeing. Lin Muyu placed the bowl on the stone table and stepped forward to support Qin Yin's shoulder. She looked straight at her and said, "That's right, Qin Yu is very strong, so strong that I don't have the confidence to defeat him. But Xiao Yin, you must know that Qin Yu is a hurdle for me. He used a scheme to kill my general, Su Jiantao. If I can't overcome this hurdle myself, if I can't defeat Qin Yu and use his blood as a sacrifice to Su Jiantao, I'm afraid I'll regret this for the rest of my life. I'll be ashamed to face Su Jiantao's spirit in heaven. But, don't worry, hatred won't make me lose my cool. I've already recovered." Lin Muyu smiled, her clear eyes filled with incomparable confidence. Qin Yin smiled as well. Just as Lin Muyu had said, the invincible Lin Muyu had returned. Slowly sitting down on the cold stone bench, Qin Yin ran her fingers through her hair and said gently, "Brother Yu, are you planning to start a war with the North and South?" "Yes." Lin Muyu's eyes shone like torches. Feng Jixing, Qian Feng, and Ding Shi are guarding the West Mountain province. There's a total of 500,000 soldiers, more than enough to suppress and even destroy Yang Shang's army. What I need to do is to delay Qin Yu here, not allowing him to make any rash moves. I'll wait for Big Brother Feng to destroy the kingdom of Shang and take control of the Blackstone Empire and the Tianji Empire. When the time comes, the North and South will march east together and destroy the Celestial Empire will only be a matter of months. Do you have any plans?" "Yes." Lin Muyu naturally trusted the Empress wholeheartedly and said, "No matter how resourceful Qin Yu is, most of his troops are new recruits, and it's a very objective fact that they lack combat strength. Therefore, as long as Qin Yu mobilizes his troops and the Forest of Never Return attacks Feng Jixing and Qianfeng, I'll have a chance. Setting off from the eastern pass of Hongyan province, the light cavalry will be able to approach Scorching Han City within 2 days. If Qin Yu dares to attack Feng Jixing, I'll immediately launch a surprise attack on his lair. Without the support of Scorching Han City, Qin Yu's 800,000 soldiers will naturally collapse. Aren't you worried that Qin Yu will feign an attack and set up an ambush midway?" Lin Muyu laughed. "Even my Xiao Yin can predict that Qin Yu will use this strategy, so why would Qin Yu show off his slight skill in front of an expert?" Qin Yin couldn't help but grumble coquettishly and laughed. "Are you saying that I'm stupid?" "Not at all." Lin Muyu held her warm little hand and said, "I'm just stating the facts. Xiao Yin isn't stupid, but I don't want you to get involved in this treacherous world of conspiracies." Where's Xiao Shi?" "She disappeared early in the morning." "Oh, she and Yao went out to buy some vegetables. She said that she wanted to personally buy some fresh vegetables to cook for you to nourish your body. There are so many chefs in the spiritual fire department, yet they actually need to personally cook. It's a different kind of intention." Alright, not long after, bustling noises could be heard from outside. It seemed that Si Kongyao and Tang Xiaoxi had returned. The two girls' personalities were inclined towards liveliness, so it was extremely lively when they were together. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin immediately walked out of the courtyard. As expected, in the courtyard of the mansion, Tang Xiaoxi and Si Kongyao walked side by side. Si Kongyao was extremely excited. She said, "Big brother, I brought someone back. Guess who it is?" "Who?" Here, Si Kongyao moved aside, and behind her was a travel-worn girl. She was wearing the clothes of a noble girl in Tianji City, but the hem of her skirt was covered in mud. It was obvious that she had a bumpy journey. Her face was considered delicate and pretty, and she looked very familiar. Lin Muyu recognized her at a glance. She said in astonishment, "Miss Shangqian?" It was the eldest miss of the Shang family. After Shangqian saw Lin Muyu, her eyes couldn't help but redden. She bowed and said, "Shangqian greets the marshal. Why so polite?" "You are the marshal, you are no longer that person." Shangqian moved her red lips. She said, "And I am just the daughter of a destroyed country, a pitiful person with a broken family." "What is going on?" Lin Muyu was puzzled. Si Kongyao said, "Big brother, don't you know? The Chamber of Commerce of Sister Xianxia's family is called the Shang League. The business of Shang League used to control nearly 30% of the economic lifeline of Tianji Empire, and the Shang League was also known as the richest in the world. But later, Baiming Yuan was not the emperor anymore, and the new emperor Yangshang kept squeezing them, until a few days ago. I made a secret agreement with Sister Xianxian that the Shang League would secretly provide military rations to Xishan province. This matter was exposed, and the whole Shang League was affected. Xianxian's eyes were red. She said, 20 days ago, my father and brother were killed. Because I was not in Tianji City, I was lucky to get the news. I mixed in with the refugees along the way, and after several troubles, I came to Red Rock City. The servants following me also reduced from more than 70 at the beginning to 4 now. I have no relatives left, and Yao is the only one I can rely on. Behind Shangqian, the 4 servants also looked travel-worn. One of them was even seriously injured, and half of his arm was chopped off. It seemed that they had really experienced hardships along the way. Lin Muyu said apologetically, Miss Shangqian, please restrain your grief. This matter started because of our Qin Empire. Please rest assured, the Qin Empire will not let the Shang League down. Yao, what are you going to do? Si Kongyao shook her head, I don't know for now. Let's arrange for Sister Shangqian to stay in Red Rock City first, okay? Lin Muyu nodded, and her expression was a little hesitant. Qin Yin, who was beside her, naturally knew what she was thinking, so she got close to her and whispered, I did hear the news that the whole Shang League was almost annihilated, and more than 300 people were killed. If it was a traitor, then the price was too high, and Shangqian's despair was definitely not faked. Okay, I understand. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Shang League was once a famous clan. You must have friends all over the world in the business world? Shangqian was startled, and that is indeed the case. Marshal, why are you asking this? I mean. Lin Muyu shrugged and said, I want to hand over the business lifelines of the 3 southern provinces to young Miss Shangqian, and all the businesses in terms of clothing, food, housing, and so on and so forth will be provided to you through the channels of the government. You have to revitalize the economy of the Darkstone Empire as soon as possible. I wonder if young Miss Shangqian is willing? Shangqian was clearly very surprised. I am afraid. What? It is not that I am unwilling, but I am afraid that I am not capable enough. Shangqian lowered her head, and muttered, furthermore, why would Marshal trust a woman like me, who had betrayed you all before? That is because we all serve our own masters. It is not considered betrayal. Now, is Miss Shangqian willing to accept my invitation to become the #1 person of Great Qin's Shang League in Heaven's Pole? I am willing. Shangqian looked at him with her clear eyes, and said, it is just that the Blackstone Empire's territory has always been dominated by martial arts. They look down on merchants, and even more so, look down on Shang League's business. Thus, the Shang League rarely interacts with the people of the Blackstone Empire, because they do not pay attention to the rules. Since Marshal and His Highness trust Shangqian, then you must first agree to a condition of mine. Speak. Revise a commercial law to protect the interests of the Shang League. Only then can we fundamentally change the situation of the 3 southern provinces, as well as the people's opinion of the Shang League. No problem. Lin Muyu nodded, and Qin Yin, who was beside her, also smiled, and said, the people from the Congress will discuss the drafting of this commercial law with Miss later. Shangqian's eyes brimmed with tears, and she bowed deeply. Thank you, Your Highness, thank you, Marshal, for giving me the opportunity to revitalize the Shang League. Chapter 1176. The Shattered Cauldron Realm had Jin Xiaotang, the Celestial Pole Continent had Shangqian, and Lin Muyu knew how to make good use of people. However, it wasn't easy to formulate this commercial law. The people's level of civilization was far from meeting the requirements of the commercial law. However, there was no other way. They could only make every possible effort and reform the law first. If they didn't take this step, it would only get worse. 3 days later, the people from the Congress came. There were more than 10 people with an average age of 60 years old. Shang Qian also had a headache. These elders of the Congress were best at arguing. After arguing for 3 days and 3 nights, not even half of the originally planned 50 chapters of commercial law had been drafted. On the contrary, Shang Qian's eyes were red from working so hard. However, things were always like this in the world. Lin Muyu couldn't let Lulu copy the commercial law from Earth. After all, the situation was different, and it needed to be adapted to the local conditions. She could only trouble Shang Qian. After 7 days, the commercial law that would be implemented in the celestial pole continent was finally finalized. It was immediately announced to the 4 provinces and implemented immediately. All the Shang League and the Chamber of Commerce were given the green light to support the development of the commercial economy. In the blink of an eye, another month passed. The 3 major forces were still recuperating. However, as the seasons changed and the weather slowly warmed up, it seemed that the 3 forces were already rubbing their palms. The strong smell of war had already begun to spread in the celestial pole continent. During this time, Lin Muyu kept cultivating and looking for a way to break through. However, she still couldn't step into the God state from the Saint Heaven realm. Her strength had clearly reached it, but it seemed that she had encountered an insurmountable bottleneck. The Supreme Being personality in her body had also been sleeping and showed no signs of waking up. It was like a broken stone. During this time, 2 people obtained a demonic body and ascended to the demon god realm. One of them was the deputy commander under Yangshang, Wu Chang. Wu Chang was originally a perfect celestial arch with 98 heavenly caves. Now, he actually obtained a second-class higher divine demon body and obtained the title, Wuji Demon God. He could be said to be the #1 expert in the entire celestial pole continent. He was even much stronger than Longxi and Filet. So much so that in Tianji City, it felt like he was trying to usurp the Lord's position. The other one was Song Liangqing of the Celestial Empire. This person was arrogant and domineering. He killed people like flies and obtained the demonic body of a 3rd-grade lower god. Although it was a demonic body of the lowest grade, he was still a demonic god without a title. This boosted the morale of the Celestial Empire. The demonic flames soared, and the righteous path declined. In the end, the first upright god did not appear. Looking at the common people of the 6 realms, there was actually no one who had the qualifications to obtain the upright god's dharma body. In the afternoon, in the small courtyard, Lin Muyu had changed into a light robe and was practicing his swordsmanship. His posture was elegant and graceful. Streaks of sword chi flew around the surrounding soil, leaving marks on the ground and severing peach branches. In a pavilion at the side, the 4 great beauties, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Yao, and Si Kong Yao, were brewing tea and admiring the flowers. The peach blossoms in the courtyard did not bloom, but a few plum blossoms bloomed. Mu's sword technique can be considered superb, right? Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said. Yes. Qin Yin nodded. Si Kong Yao smiled and said, but no matter how strong brother is, he can't break through the shackles of the Saint Heaven realm. On the other hand, Wu Chang of the Celestial Pole Continent has obtained a higher divine demon body. I really don't know how strong he is now. Yes, Longxi has already made us at a loss. That Wuji demon god is probably even more terrifying. At this time, Lin Muyu had already walked back with the Xianyuan sword in hand. She wiped her sweat and took a cup of tea from Tang Xiaoxi's hand, saying, Xiaoxi's tea art is getting more and more exquisite. Is that so? Tang Xiaoxi asked with a smile. Yes. Lin Muyu said, I heard what you said. Actually, you don't have to worry too much. The seal of the 6 realms has been broken, and demonic chi has been constantly leaking into the 6 realms, just like this teapot. Look, there was originally no water in the teapot, just like the 6 realms. At first, there was only righteous chi and no demonic chi. However, the gate of the demonic world has opened, demonic chi has been born, and demon gods have descended. At least half of the teapot needs to be filled with demonic chi to achieve balance. Only when demonic chi occupies half of the 6 realms will the heavenly Tao that belongs to the kind people appear. Yes. Tang Xiaoxi nodded as if she understood. Qin Yin said thoughtfully, what kind of place is the devil realm? Sister Haiyan has been gone for so long, I don't know how she is. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and wanted to say something, but stopped on second thought. She didn't know how to comfort her. After all, she had never been to the devil realm, so she didn't know what would happen to Shi Yan there. The worst result was that Shi Yan would be devoured by demonic flames the moment she entered the devil realm. However, there was probably an even worse result, that was, Shi Yan would be demonized. What kind of terrible scene would that be? Shi Yan was one of the few powerhouses in the 6 realms. If she were to become a demon god, her power would probably be enough to destroy everything, right? The only thing worth hoping for was that the kindness in the depths of Shi Yan's heart might be able to save herself. Everyone was silent. Gurgle. Gurgle, the tea on the stove was boiling. The devil realm was a wasteland. Demonic flames filled the heavens and the earth, but the earth was a vast expanse. There were canyons and cracks everywhere, and huge clouds of demonic flames rose from the ground and went straight to the crack in the sky. The crack was the gap in the seal of the 6 realms, and the demonic energy entered the 6 realms in this way, beginning to dominate the laws of the 6 realms. In the horizon, rumbling lightning flashed. A resplendent scroll unfurled in the clouds, and a brand new name was imprinted on the heavenly book of demons ceiling. Another person had become a demonic god. No one knew if this was a good or bad thing. Jiejia, a bone-chilling scream came from the decaying forest. It was a man with a stooped back and spikes growing out of his back. Strictly speaking, he could not be considered a human, but merely had the appearance of a human. He crept forward in the decaying grass like a snake, occasionally sticking out his long forked tongue. He looked up at the heavenly book of demons ceiling in the sky with a look of awe and veneration. Jiejia, he screamed crazily again. His prey had appeared. It was under the giant tree in front of him. There was a simple, man-made straw hut, and under the hut, a man wrapped in a huge leaf seemed to be resting. The spikes on his palms penetrated into the ground, reducing the sound of his crawling. He approached step by step, and his face was full of greed and excitement. Hiss! With a roar, his face became extremely ferocious. His body was in the air, and his sharp claws swept towards the sleeping man, as if he wanted to tear him to pieces in an instant. Poof! The leaf was torn to pieces, but there was nothing inside. It was a fake body, there was nothing at all. He was slightly surprised. He looked up and saw a beautiful woman holding a sharp sword in her hand. Swish! The sharp sword glowed with the radiance of the moon and chopped down in a straight line. With a single strike, the man's arms were severed. Immediately after, the woman kicked him away and chased after him at lightning speed. She kicked his abdomen heavily, pinning him against a huge rock. Jiejia, he waved his broken arms wildly. He wanted to resist, but he was powerless. The disparity in strength was too great. The long sword slowly pierced into his chest, getting closer to his heart. His screams became even more tragic. This sword was the Chiwa sword, and the woman was naturally Shi Yan. Tell me, where is the person who controls the devil flame? Shi Yan said faintly. Hiss, hiss. He only screamed, but did not speak. You'd rather die than surrender? Shi Yan smiled evilly and continued to push the blade into his heart. Ah! He finally screamed, I don't know anything. I'm just a small Mara. You won't get anything even if you kill me. You just need to tell me, who is above you, and where is he? Ziyan Crack, 300 miles to the east. Devil General Ziyan, it's him, he's the one who created me. I don't know anything else. Let me go. Devil General Ziyan? Shi Yan frowned. Suddenly, she flipped her wrist and the blade pierced through his heart. "Ah," Mara screamed, his eyes filled with unwillingness. "You said, you won't kill me. I'm just asking. I didn't say that I won't kill you just because you said it. It's all your own thinking." Shi Yan pulled back the Chiwa sword. Her eyes were cold as she said, "Good and evil cannot coexist. The devil path must die." Mara kicked a few more times and died with his head tilted. Shi Yan looked towards the east and murmured, "Zi Yen crack. Eva, will you be there?" At this moment, a whistling sound came from behind. Balls of devil chi were rushing towards them. "Humph, it's here again." Shi Yan smiled coldly. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and stabbed the Chiwa sword into the rock stratum. It pierced through the rock stratum quickly and she leaped into the rock stratum. She raised her hand to seal the entrance of the cave. The whistling sound came from above. She had to preserve her divine power so that she wouldn't be devoured by the devil chi. What made Shi Yan feel fortunate was that because she entered the devil world, she wasn't punished by the heavens. She still maintained her great perfection divine emperor cultivation. However, the power of the laws had weakened and her light divine power was slightly weaker than before. Shi Yan's body trembled slightly when she heard the whistling sound from above. She was a god, but she wasn't omnipotent. Facing the absolute power of the devil world, she would also feel fear. "Eva, you're definitely not dead, right? You're definitely not dead. I believe you. I will find you," she murmured to herself. Looking at the darkness around her, she sighed softly and said, "Sheen and you. I hope you're all right. I'm sorry, I can't protect you for the time being." 8 Wastelands World. The lightning vines and the blood clouds formed a huge tree that reached the sky. At the core of the tree, a person was imprisoned. It was the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. The Demon Emperor had his eyes closed. He had aged a lot. His eyebrows and hair were mottled with white. However, he didn't age because his divine power had disappeared. Instead, it was because his divine power had been exhausted. The mysterious power in the lightning vines seemed to have a lingering function. It retained the Demon Emperor's cultivation, so that his divine power wouldn't disappear with the heaven's punishment. In this case, the Demon Emperor's divine power could provide an endless source of power for the demonic vines. However, the Demon Emperor's name wasn't recorded in the heavenly melody scroll of the Mahayana heavenly path. He was just a useless god. Look, he's the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, the ruler who once shook the 6 realms. Yes, it's him. A group of Mara appeared in the sky with their wings flapping. They held shiny knives and forks in their hands. They were in charge of guarding the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. Their daily routine was to mock him. The Demon Emperor slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were as unruly as before. He smiled coldly. "What do you want to do with my divine power?" The Mara laughed. One of them used a metal fork to poke the stone body of the Demon Emperor. "Have you heard of the God-destroying pagoda?" "God-destroying pagoda?" Yes, yes." The Mara laughed cruelly. "It's the God-destroying pagoda. It's the ultimate godly weapon of the demon realm. With your power as the source, once the Mahayana heavenly path's main gods appear, the God-destroying pagoda will kill them one by one." Ha 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 ha. The Demon Emperor fell silent as flames of fury burst forth from his eyes. Motherf *****. Chapter 1177. The star universe was silent. Strands of demonic flames flowed into the 6 realms from the gap in the seal. This time, along with the appearance of the demonic flames, there were also jijia, sounds that sounded like the mournful cries of vengeful spirits. Amidst the purple clouds, heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals, holding various kinds of weapons, descended from the sky. Each of them had the power of a demon god, and their eyes were filled with ferocity and viciousness. Mara, the demon world, finally made a move. Under the situation where the god's sealing demon book could cover the sky with one hand, the densely packed Mara army surged into the 6 realms. Roar, roar, roar. The Mara all had different shapes and sizes, but they were all indescribably ugly. Their bodies were covered with scales and spikes, and their ugly eyeballs were rolling around. Stepping on the demonic flames, they came to the 6 realms. Suddenly, all of them stopped and waved their weapons towards the back. It was bustling, as if they were welcoming some important person. The demonic flames became denser and denser, and the clouds rolled away. A person stepped on the air, riding on a ferocious tiger-like beast. In his hand was a war hammer that was suffused with blood-red flames. He wore black armor, and his body was sturdy. Even his face was covered by an iron helmet. A pair of piercingly cold eyes looked at the Mara army in front of him through the gaps of the iron helmet. Suddenly, he raised his arm and growled, "Brats, tell me, which one should we start conquering the 6 realms first?" The Maras roared, but no one knew what to say. One of the Mara carrying a bow and arrow stepped forward on the demonic clouds and said, "Lord Demon General Theron, among the 6 realms, only the 8 Wastelands world still has spiritual energy. The last pillar of the Bahuang pillar is supported by the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. If it wasn't for him, I'm afraid that the heavenly sound scroll of the Mahayana heavenly Tao wouldn't have the chance to enter the 6 realms. Why don't we destroy the 8 Wastelands world first, and kill all the crippled gods that are still in the heaven realm?" 7 luminaries Demon Emperor? Smoke puffed out of Theron's nose and mouth as he laughed. "No. Before I came here, the Holy King and Holy Emperor of the Demon Realm have already told me that the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor can't be killed. The supremacy in his body is still useful, and we need him to continuously supply the power of the god-slaying pagoda. As long as the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor is here, the god-slaying pagoda will be able to beat the fake Mahayana heavenly Tao into submission." "Yes. Then, where should we attack now?" "Men, flip through the heavenly book and see where there are the most demon gods. That's where we will establish our foothold." A cold sneer could be seen in Theron's eyes as he said, "Since the demon realm has sent me to be the vanguard, I will have to destroy a region first to provide a foothold for the demon realm to enter the 6 realms." "Yes." Mara quickly summoned the demon sealing heavenly book, and the names of the demon gods flashed through the purple book in the air. Finally, this Mara stooped and said, "Lord Demon General, the plains of the 6 realms have produced a total of more than 600 demon gods. Among them, the celestial pole continent has the most demon gods. There are as many as 5. And one of them has obtained a demon body of a 2nd-tier higher god." "Oh. 2nd-tier higher god? Interesting." Theron smiled, and his eyes were cold as he said, "Then let's do it this way. Pass down my order. The 20,000 Vanguard Mara will be divided into 10 teams. One team of 2,000 Mara will follow me to the celestial pole continent, and the rest will spread out and head to the 4 great celestial realms to kill those fallen gods who have yet to submit to the demon realm." "Yes." Streams of light spread out from the star universe dome. Gold. Looking at the brilliant celestial river in the distance, the people on top of the gold could no longer sit still. Fushi sat cross-legged and looked into the distance with a bleak gaze. He was neither sad nor happy, and his sleeves fluttered in the strong wind brought by the celestial river. Miue, who was at the side, could no longer sit still. She stood up and said, "Master, you must have seen it too. We can't continue sitting like this. The demon realm has already made a move. That demon general called Theron is going after little junior brother." "I saw it," Fushi said leisurely. "Miue, you are the most impatient. What do you think we should do?" Miue pursed her red lips and said, "Each Mara's strength is comparable to that of a 3rd-tier lower god. Once 2,000 Mara enter the celestial pole continent, how can little junior brother's mortal army resist them? Moreover, there is still Demon General Theron. Although Theron is only a lowly demon general, little junior brother is definitely no match for him. Are you going to block the way and kill those Mara?" Fushi asked. "Yes." Miue held the sword beside her and said, "As long as Master gives the order, I will immediately go and kill them." Even if I can't kill all of those Mara, at least I can let the demon realm know that the gods of the 6 realms are not all dead. Then what about the other 10 Maras? Fushi said indifferently, you only want to save you, but you have never thought about those mortals who are staying in the celestial realm. There are hundreds of thousands of fallen gods in the 4 great celestial realms. They have the title of gods, but they are just mortals. Can they resist the invasion of Mara? You only think about little junior brother, but you have forgotten the justice of the Mahayana heavenly way. Miyu blinked her bright eyes and tightened her grip on the sword. I cultivate the Taishu law of the heavens beyond heaven, not the Mahayana heavenly way. Even if I really cultivate the Mahayana heavenly way, I will only cultivate the law of, if others don't offend me, I will not offend them. Whoever dares to bully my little junior brother, I will make them look bad. What do you think, master? Fushi couldn't help but laugh. Miyu, oh Miyu, I can't win against you in an argument, but, the dark servant might be coming soon. Its attacks are getting more frequent and stronger, and the formation the 5 of us can't be left out. So, I will give the 4 of you 2 hours. You must return to the Jin Kingdom within 2 hours. As for how many Maras you can kill and which Maras to kill, it will depend on your intentions. The difference between gods and mortals is kindness. As long as you have kindness, it doesn't matter what you do. Yes. Miyu was overjoyed, and the sword in her hand also seemed to be happy. She said to the other 3, I will go to the Eastern Heaven Realm and kill Theron, who is bullying little junior brother. Senior Fan Yang, you go to the Western Heaven Realm. Junior Wan Xing, you go to the Northern Heaven Realm. Junior Hao Chen, you go to the Southern Heaven Realm. What do you think? There's no other way. How can we not follow the mission that second senior sister has given us? Hao Chen smiled. Wan Xing and Fan Yang also smiled. In the Eastern Heaven Realm, beams of light were shuttling through the universe at high speed, heading straight for the celestial pole continent. They were very fast, reaching the celestial pole continent in less than half a day. But it wasn't fast enough. Hua, a piercingly cold force rippled through the universe, and the hundreds of Maras who were charging at the front all crashed into a void wall. Bang, 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 sounds rang out incessantly, and more than half of the hundreds of people instantly turned into fiery red flowers, disappearing into thin air. The fragments of their corpses turned into sparks and scattered in the universe. Be careful. The devil General Theron, who was at the front, hurriedly pulled on the reins, and the battle tiger he was riding on let out a furious roar, stopping in midair. In front of him, the void wall slowly glowed with light, transforming into a huge Taishu 8 trigrams constellation, and in the center of the constellation, a beautiful woman holding a long sword floated over. With a faint smile on her face, she said, Dregs of the devil world, where are you going? Theron's gaze was ice cold. Who are you? Why are you blocking our way here? I'm Miyu, the second disciple of Great Emperor Fushi. Fushi's disciple? Theron's body trembled slightly, and he said, What do you mean by this? Are you openly challenging the devil world? Miyu, even if you're Fushi's disciple, don't think that we're afraid of you. The devil world's army is gathering, and if you openly oppose us, I don't need to say more about your fate, right? Miyu slowly pulled out her sharp sword, and her beautiful eyes were filled with coldness. In this life, I hate people who threaten me the most. Hong. Invisible waves of air rippled out, and her body turned into a beam of light, rushing towards Theron. She actually took the initiative to attack. No one would have thought that this seemingly delicate beauty would take the initiative to attack first. She was simply too fierce. Pung. A piercingly cold energy storm erupted in the starry sky. It was Theron's war hammer colliding with Miyue's sharp sword. It was just a simple strike, but Theron was so shaken that he almost fell off the back of the war tiger, and black blood spurted out of his mouth. A red sword mark appeared on the war hammer, and if it wasn't for the fact that the war hammer was big enough, it would have been cut in half by Miyue's sword. Miyu floated in midair, and her temperament was elegant, and she smiled faintly. It seems that the devil world's gods aren't that great after all. You guys have plotted for so long, and finally took advantage of Tian Fa to start a rebellion, but I don't think you guys will succeed, hee. None of your business. Theron roared, and he waved his war hammer, and instantly, a piercingly cold flame storm appeared in the sky, directly blasting towards Miue. So fierce. Miue held her sword with one hand, and with the other, she casually waved it in front of her. Suddenly, a wave of Taishu power dissolved the storm Theron had created, and Miue threw a punch in the air. Pung! The armor in front of Theron's chest shattered, and a small fist mark went deep into the armor. One could even faintly hear the sound of bones breaking. Wah! Theron spat out a mouthful of blood, and he held his war hammer as he retreated. He roared, "What are you waiting for? Mara, go and kill her. The rest of you, follow me to the celestial pole continent, and leave this place." Immediately, hundreds of Mara swarmed forward. Miue gripped her sharp sword tightly, and fearlessly went up to meet them. Suddenly, sword chi flew in the sky, and the screams of Mara could be heard. Compared to Miue's cultivation, these Mara were like ants. However, Theron also took this opportunity to quickly leave on his war tiger, leading hundreds of Mara directly in the direction of the celestial pole continent. Clang! The sharp sword cut off the handle of an axe, and Mara was cut into a blooming flower of fire. Miue's body spun rapidly, and an arc of sword chi swept out. Almost all of the Mara around her were killed, but at the same time, a virtual image appeared above her head. It was Fushi. "Shiming is coming. Come back." "But Master, Mara hasn't killed all of them yet. This is fate. I'll give you all time. Come back immediately. Otherwise, once Shiming devours Jean, even the gods of the realm beyond heaven won't be able to save the situation." "Yes." Miue looked at the starlight behind her unwillingly, and said faintly, "Little junior brother, senior sister can only help you this much. Please take care." You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.